to a brand new discography from Light the Sky podcast. And tonight we are proudly presenting on Twitch TV/ Light the Sky. We are a show that covers, we cover discographies track by track, album by album. And we've covered some of the greatest discographies that have ever gone on to lit the sky. We've covered Van Halen, we've covered Pink Floyd, we've covered Metallica, Queen, The Police, and now we're ready for our new one. In between some special shows that we've had that have been a lot of fun, some open discussion, we're finally ready to tackle our new one, and we are going to be heading back in time to the year 1989 to go into a full-fledged, comprehensive, track-by-track, opinionated dive into the band Nirvana. 3 albums, maybe 36 songs, depending on how you want to count what is an official and what is a non-official release. But short and sweet, and going to be a lot of fun because this is an era that, we've never really done anything 90s before. We haven't done anything grunge. We did a little Metallica in the 90s, but that was Metallica. So I'm going to have a lot of fun with this one. Hopefully that you'll have a lot of fun listening to us. I'm Mark. I've got Chris, the architect, Alex, contender, Kevin, the engineer, on with me, all live, all streaming on Twitch. And for those of you who are listening on Spotify, other platforms, definitely check us out there because we're going to be doing live shows, taking live comments. So hate mail, real time. I want to hear it. It's going to be great. It's going to be a lot of fun. I think we already have a heckler on the live chat. So welcome. So tonight, Nirvana Bleach, their 1989 album, recorded for, I think, $600. One of the probably earliest albums. I guess you could probably say there were earlier albums and like Mudhoney and some of the other bands that were involved in the scene. But really, I mean, the band that broke it all and the band that became the face of a generation, really wiping the map of the LA strip scene. They didn't know it at the time, but it kind of became that thing in 1991 with their release that we'll cover next episode with Nevermind. But tonight we're on this, I guess, pseudo demo, whatever you want to call it. It is an album of original music, minus one cover. So it's going to be an interesting discography to cover, and it's going to be I think it's going to be a lot that goes beyond the music. But we're a show of 4 opinions. We are guys that didn't grow up with this. I didn't grow up in the grunge era. Chris, you're the oldest of the group. So, but still, this really isn't music that defined, our childhood. But it's gonna be fun to explore from that perspective, in terms of how our opinions form on this, because this is, a very culturally relevant phenomenon for the era. So, welcome to the '90s. It's 1989, and we're about to jump full-fledged, feet first, into the '90s rock scene with one of the biggest bands to define it. So, tonight we are starting our order, our opening opinions. Chris, you begin. What are your thoughts this week in listening to Nirvana's debut album, Bleach?
It's kind of funny. Yeah, this kind of reminds me of like Metallica's Kill 'Em All. This is kind of Nirvana's Kill 'Em All. It's very dirty and sludgy, and it kind of sits in a weird limbo between kind of the mid to late 80s kind of alternative rock that really hadn't broken out of the college scene yet. I mean, you had like Sonic Youth, REM, which really hadn't broken yet, but it's weird. It's not the 90s sound yet, but you can tell it's kind of on its way there. Yeah, it's kind of that primordial soup where it's bubbling up slowly. It's very fascinating record. I was actually pleasantly surprised. For such a dense record. You can tell there's, as far as the sonic impact is a little bit more, the production you can tell is a little bit tighter than, let's say, some of their other contemporaries of the era, like Mudhoney, which was the band who put out their debut album actually the same time. And that was actually another album I actually listened to in preparation for this show. And you can feel, that there's definitely that kind of kind of punk hardcore meets kind of 70s hard rock. It's not quite thrash, where it's technical, but it sits on the other side of the coin as far as the it's like one step outside of punk, but not completely. It's more of the songwriting aspect versus the technical aspect. very. I was actually, yeah, like I said, I liked it a lot more than I was expecting. There were only like a couple of songs on here that was familiar with.
What's your out of 10,
Uh,
Chris?
I'm gonna give this a 7.5. Actually, yeah, I really, it impressed me. I think it sits well. I mean, for a band that only has 3 albums, I think it's an important record that helps balance the rest of the discography.
Hmm. Okay, strong start. I'm up next. I know Kevin wants me to keep this to 30 seconds, but I have to blab. Just in preparation for this whole discography, I just maybe have to set aside my biases against 90s music. Never a fan. I mean, I, when I started listening to music and turning on the radio and choosing what I listen to, as opposed to just listening to whatever my parents have on or put on, I like the first music that I heard was the tail end of the post grunge era. So basically, fourth rate garbage like Stained and Puddle of Mud and Seether and just like a pile of yuck, just like to me that just like I hated it. I was so sad. Like that movie, that music kind of like gave me heartburn. Like I just never like that. I kind of did a little dabble into new metal and everything. And then I've told this story before on the Van Halen show, but the seventh grade field trip to Springfield, Illinois, John D. Flanagan gave me a burned copy of Van Halen Best of Both Worlds Part 1 and Boston, the self-titled album. And that was just an open window from the post-grunge era into the music that I listened to for the next couple of years, just the, 70s and 80s rock. It was just so much more interesting and brighter and just more levels of musicianship and studio production. It's such an antidote to all of the inward depression and the bland, vague, anti-corporate but corporate attitudes of what had really was plaguing the tail end of the grunge movement. So I never looked back at the 90s scene. I never gave it a chance. Nirvana was kind of the band that I would associate with all of that. So I regretfully, decided that we could go forward with this in this Nirvana discography. But I found it interesting to hear, I guess, the genesis of what was going to become in this record. I am not going to criticize it for its production quality. I know it was recorded with $600, as I mentioned, so I'm not going to, just harp on it for that. There's some good. The energy is great. The visceral, raw, just just it's that bursting at the seams, just ball of energy that you can hear in the studio. It comes across well. It ages well. There's a lot of bad. We'll get to that, and there's some really horrible, ugly moments in this record that I think, I guess I could call. There's a lot of shut up guitar in this record. You just hear it, and you're just like, shut up, like stop playing. Like I just don't want to hear this again. There's just not a lot here that I would say is transcendent, because we always talk about that with our discographies that transcend generations. It's like you had to be there. You really had to experience this in the right mindset at the right state in your life. And, you had to really experience Nirvana at that point in time. And if you didn't, then it just doesn't necessarily seem to age that well. There's still some good stuff in there, but a lot of it just is clunky or just poor songwriting, repetition. It just, iffy musicianship. It's frustrating because you kind of feel that there could have been something had they maybe, had maybe a fourth member that could bring some of that to the table, or if they were another, band that I'll talk about from the era that just had a lot more musicianship involved in their grungy sound. So when we get there, I'll get to that point. But in terms of the songs that I heard here, I'm not hearing a lot that really helps it stand the test of time and put it among the greatest discographies of all time. I'm going to start with a generous 4 and see where it goes from there. That's where I got to give it, and we'll see where it, based on your opinions, where that goes. Alex?
Yeah, maybe I'll give a little intro since it's the first episode of the discography, or first album rather. I started my introduction with this band. I'm trying to remember exactly when I first got introduced to Nirvana. I mean, I imagine it was hearing "Smells Like Teen Spirit" on the radio, like most people. But I have an older cousin, Jono, who's got to be in his mid to late 30s, who was around when Nirvana was in their heyday, and that's his favorite band. And actually, I think he was born the same day that Kurt died, so he has sort of a weird connection with the band, but I remember him getting me into this band at a really early age. I remember him having DSL dial-up and downloading the Live and Loud concert from the In Utero tour. And I remember watching that really early on and not really knowing much about it, but I knew he was really passionate about the band. And it's one of those kind of memories that stuck with me because I ended up really revisiting Nirvana sort of later on, maybe in high school, once I started getting a lot more into punk rock. I was actually even in a Nirvana cover band for a minute for a couple shows. We were called Fat Dave Grohl. Yes, our Dave Grohl was fat. You can go ahead online and maybe dig up a few videos of us playing, but that was fun. But yeah, I mean, it's weird. I love this band a lot, and I'm a huge Foo Fighters fan. So in a way, this band is always kind of stuck around just with being a big fan of Dave Grohl. Like, you can't really take the Foo Fighters without really knowing who Nirvana is. And it's a band that I've always appreciated. And maybe at sometimes they got a little too over-explained for me. And it's like, I can kind of not pass on them, but it's like, I could take a break from this band for a while. And then, eventually I got even more into like the 90s grunge stuff. Like, I was always a big fan of the Smashing Pumpkins and Pearl Jam and Alice in Chains and Soundgarden and stuff like that. But, even in my college years, like getting more into like the Lemonheads and Sugar and Sonic Youth, Dinosaur Jr., like some of those other bands, the Melvins, like bands that really influenced Nirvana, it's almost like they kind of come back and you start to appreciate them a little bit more a little later in life. So, but I guess touching on Bleach, this is a record that I didn't know primarily the back half of this record. I would say the first half I knew pretty well and like most of the songs, so it was interesting to listen to the back half. And I want to say, if I didn't have my punk rock influence from high school, I wouldn't hear a lot of the influences where you hear a lot of Black Flag. I don't know if you guys are super familiar with Black Flag. I know Kurt was a fan, but you can hear some of that, especially like My War era Black Flag and some of these songs, and even some Metallica and some of the guitar playing I thought was pretty interesting. So, but it's also, and one thing I guess I can kind of close with here is it's an interesting band, and I know maybe we'll have some criticisms or harshness to speak on this band, because as maybe if you've listened to the show in the past, you'll know we're huge fans of the 80s hair metal scene and the 80s metal scene, and this was the band that killed that scene. Mm-hmm. And it's weird for me because you think maybe I would be bitter to that. Also, I mean, I was born in 93, so I didn't really discover this band till later. So I wasn't there at the impetus of this band to really see them kill that scene live while it happened. I got to hear about it in retrospect, but I can still appreciate this band. So it's weird that they killed one of my favorite genres, but they're also, again, a favorite band of mine. So I'm sure we'll get more into that as we continue the discography.
Well,
but for
it was
Bleach,
definitely a genre that needed to die. So
sure,
there's good reasons for it.
Sure. And they're an interesting band because I wonder why this really was the band that did it. Like, why wasn't it the Melvins or Dinosaur Jr. or Sonic Youth? I mean, those bands were huge, but why was it this band that did it? And it's interesting because as big of a lyrical band as Nirvana is, yes, I think their lyrics are great, but that's not really what I focus on in lyrics. I really focus more on the visual aesthetic and the rawness and the guitar and the drums and more of the music base. So it'll be interesting to dive into more of these songs in the next couple weeks. But anyway, Bleach, I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10 tonight, and maybe it'll go up or down. We'll see.
All right, Kevin, close it out.
Yeah, I'm not going to have a lot of long comments because I have no history with this band. I went into this not knowing what to expect. I kept putting on the album and kept turning it off.
Good start.
Yeah, and I have to say, my one word would be disappointed. Is the one word, because even, I figure, okay, I know that I'm not going to get the most technically proficient playing here. I knew that going in, it was worse than I expected, actually, in some areas. So I'm like, well, maybe I'll dig into the lyrics. I dug into the lyrics, and was unfortunately disappointed there too. So I'm just going to go ahead and give this one a 3.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Kind of knew we'd be there to start. So
Yeah.
it's, I mean, some of this is I'm going to struggle with throughout this is how much credit do I give them for pioneering musical trends that I personally hate? You know, how much can I set aside my opinion of this kind of guitar playing, this kind of tone, this kind of songwriting, with also giving them credit for changing the entire direction of music, rock music.
Right.
So that'll be what I'm going to be struggling to balance the entire time. So, you know, I could just see that's where, I mean, there's no doubt about it. As much of a fan as I am of the LA scene, it really is more just because it's so funny more than it's because it's good. I mean, let's be honest, when you were, you know, constantly being, you know, slapped in the face with Bang Tango, Pretty Boy Floyd, you know, Back Alley Sally, Tough, you know, like kind of just the most awful hair metal that was
Right.
just circulating in 1991, I could totally see why. And I could give them a lot of credit for just finding their own voice and developing that and and continuing to deliver it after blowing up. So lots of credit for that. I don't know.
I just think a lot of retrospective reviews about the genius or whatever
Yeah.
are just that.
The John
Retrospective
Lennon
reviews.
of his era.
Yeah, because you know what? If Nevermind had, let's say, some alternate universe where Nevermind sold, I don't know, 100,000 copies, maybe
Maybe it
50,000
went gold,
copies. Yeah, would anybody be like, "Oh, this is so genius," or would they just be like, "Oh, you know, that was kind of a nice movement on an obscure label"?
Well,
And
yeah,
just-
I mean,
We'd be talking about some other band
Well,
and talking
Allison-
about their genius.
Alice in Chains was out before Nevermind.
No, I
correct, and that was
know,
the-
but
yeah,
I'm
the
just
year before,
saying
yeah.
now we're all talking about how Bleach is just like, come on, all these retrospective reviews, they were all 4 out of 5, 4 out of 5, 4.5 out of 5.
Well, yeah, I mean,
Like,
Bleach.
come on.
I'm
Did
not
any of
gonna-
those people would be like, oh yeah, this is the next biggest band of all time?
No, I mean, I think
No.
for the most part, I mean, people were surprised. I mean, I mean, they literally, yeah, going back to what I said about as far as this is their kind of Kill 'Em All, that they went from Kill 'Em All to the Black Album. Yeah, I mean, which is a pretty
Right.
dangerous, yeah, kind of, and ultimately we saw what ultimately happened with as far as kind of getting to that level so quickly. I don't think Kurt expected that, though it did kind of come out that he was kind of a closet, like kind of like pop rock. He loved the Beatles, he loved Boston, he loved a lot of those '70s bands, but had a hard time articulating that amongst his scene. I don't know if you watched that that video that I sent you last night. Yeah, where it kind of talked about that was something he kind of struggled with within the scene. Yeah, where there was very much this kind of what do you want to call it? Very kind of stuffy attitude. Yeah, which is what you see with a lot of music scenes.
It is
but
pretty. Yeah, it is
Yeah.
pretty crazy to think about. Like, obviously, there's, and it's like I said, it's obvious, but there's one song on this record that stands out that is gonna pretty much foreshadow what's to come.
What's coming on? Yeah.
And it is pretty crazy because, like I said, I wasn't super familiar with the back half of this record, a lot of the deep cuts on side 2. So I'm like listening to this, and it's like, okay, yeah, you can hear some of like the more punk rock kind of sludge metal influence that is kind of gone on the next record for the most
it's
part. But if
almost
anything, it comes back around on In Utero. So it is pretty crazy. Like, I'm not here to convince anybody on Bleach. Like, it's one of those records where they talk about it where it was, you know, it only sold 40,000 copies before Nevermind. And it's one of those things where if Nevermind never came out, nobody probably would have gone back.
You're right.
And, like, it's because of Nevermind that this record and this
Right.
band is huge.
Right.
So I'm
It's
not
a
here to
yeah.
I'm not here to convince anybody on Bleach. It's like one of those things where it's interesting to go back and listen to it now and see where they started. And like, yeah, they're young and they're working out the kinks and stuff. But like you said, it's pretty crazy for them to go from Kill 'Em All to a Black Album, if you use that analogy. And and they say to themselves, like, oh, they weren't ready for this and stuff like that. And it's like, well, man, if you listen to it, it's like you're really going for it.
Right. And
Like, even
that's
production wise, it's pretty crazy. It's like, I don't know if it was more the label wanting to make everything a little bit more
I think
saccharine and pretty, and Kurt didn't
later
want
on.
that.
I think a little bit. Yeah.
but it's like it's almost polar opposites. Not entirely. Like there's some rough, screamy stuff on Nevermind, but it's pretty poppy compared to this.
What blows my mind is that, at least in this album, flies in the face of everything you expect or you are told. You don't have to put a lot of effort in the lyrics, and don't tell me that he did, because he admitted that he didn't.
No, he did. You're right. Yeah,
right.
He said
you
it for a lot
don't have to be.
Yeah.
You don't have to be talented at your instrument. You don't have to keep time. You don't have to have good production to be successful. So why bother at all?
Well,
That's just, it just kind of blows my mind sometimes that you can do everything wrong and still have success, and you can do everything right and have none.
They could only do it at that time, though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Because I think of it like this. Think about, like, and we try to stay away from politics on the show, so I'll just leave out names. But think about, like, when you have a very unpopular president or politician, and everyone can't wait to get this guy out of office. So they will take anybody but this guy. They'll prop up whomever has the best chance of winning. Then that guy wins. Then that guy takes over. And everyone's like, like, this guy's got his own flaws. And it's just like, it's such an overreaction to the genre let's be, it was stupid. Like, the late 80s and the guitar shredding, you had guitars upside down behind the back, shooting rockets out of it, light it up, set it on fire. And now here's a bunch of guys who can't even play their instruments. So I get it. It's just one of that typical massive overcorrection.
It's one of the many. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's one of those records where it's like you can kind of judge it harshly in retrospect, because I get it. Like, you could say, like, oh, well, why do people rate this record highly? It's like, it's grungy and dirgy, and some of the songs are annoying and long, and there's nothing catchy about it, and I get that, and I mean, I'm trying to put myself in the perspective of listening to this for the first time in 1989 and having no idea that Nevermind and In Utero are coming. So, like, I can't judge this.
Right.
I have to judge it just on its own. Like, if I were to hear it for the first time, like, I probably wouldn't be that impressed with it. But then you go and you listen to, like, Nevermind and In Utero, and they're the biggest band in the world, and then you can go back and be like, okay, I kind of maybe see it.
Yeah, but that makes those albums more impressive, not this one.
Sure.
Alex, this sounds to me like those you send me some of those, like Bandcamp, like punk demos sometimes. Like, this sounds like that in a lot of ways. Of course. And what makes this any better than those?
And
why aren't those people being like 5 out of 5? This is why aren't people flocking to those bands? I get it, because it's been done already, but it's just like,
This goes back to the first Pink Floyd episode.
Right.
Where we talked about Piper at the Gates of Dawn, and Kevin, you said you can't find a bad review of this album. And my argument, because I gave that one a high rating, was because they were the first to do it. The unmatched level of experimentation in the studio, and that they were influencing the biggest band in the world at that time in the Beatles, or they were at least right there, neck and neck with them. So to do that on your debut is very impressive. Like, do you even consider, if this were a demo record and Nevermind were the debut, then I suppose it would
make more sense. Yeah.
See, that would fit more in our discography, because honestly, this is probably the most, this is the most disappointing debut we've had.
Oh, by far.
Well, discography.
Yeah. And I'm sure. Again, there have been a lot of other bands like that where one record blows up and then the back catalog gets reevaluated, maybe higher than.
That's what this is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, which is fine. Like I said, this is I think this, and again, we'll get into it. I think this is an interesting record it makes for a more interesting discussion as far as looking at the 3 albums. Like, wow, these are really, but I think, like I started saying before, with this record, I think they were hoping just to be, because again, what can you do for $600? You can only do so much. Yeah. Even on an indie level.
You can not record 13 songs. You can put more effort into less songs.
It's going to sound a certain way. I'm
not going to criticize the production of it. I'm just not.
No, I'm not going to criticize the production, but that doesn't mean you need to be sloppy.
Yeah.
Either. Right. I think that's kind of what they were going for. I think I think they were kind of conscious. Yeah. This was the beginning of that kind of. Maybe they rebelled a little too much. You've seen that. I think we've talked about it off the show as far as the war, the ongoing half-century war between technical and feel. That's a really probably one of the most gruesome musical battle discussions you can get into, as far as, especially from musicians and songwriter standpoints. And this is kind of was the first kind of, as far as the late 80s, the first real kind of, kind of where, the other side kind of started pushing back,
I mean,
you got
so Nirvana is really known, and whether it was true at the time or just as they blew up, but being the antidote to everything that Guns N' Roses was not, which is weird because Guns N' Roses was the one that turned hair metal back on its heel
Upside
to say,
down.
be tougher, a more street image, just that really
More genuine.
Yeah, just a more genuine.
Well, that's the thing, and sometimes people throw around that word a little too much, where I kind of get irritated. Like, they weren't Guns N' Roses and Nirvana were real, and then everybody else were fake. And it's like, well, I mean, maybe to an extent, but it's I don't know. It's
just you
I think it's done a lot. It's done a lot more damage than it's like. They were. They couldn't. You can respect them for that, but I mean, there was a lot of other much more overexposed stuff that was just as good. I mean, whether it was too poppy. I mean, it all depends. You have to look at each individual artist, and as far as how how they're working that style. Yeah, how they're working within their medium.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alex, you just want to close this out?
Yeah, no, I just I totally understand why anybody would criticize this album, and as you can see, I didn't give it the highest rating either, and it absolutely is a retrospective record where if this was the only record that they put out, I don't think it would be rated that high. It's because of the success of the next two records. Arguably, you can even just say the next record is the reason why people go back to this. And I mean, $600 is crazy to record a record. And yes, you're right. Kurt has said that he was writing lyrics for these songs on the way to the studio. So it's like they're coming from
severe, extreme meat and potatoes kind of
BF Washington, and not really caring, and it is interesting. It's just crazy to me how they went from this to the next record. You see inklings in it, and it sounds like there's times where Kurt wanted to get more poppy on the first record, but he was torn on which direction to go. So it's crazy. It'll be interesting to see where it goes after this. I mean, I know where it goes, but how it.
One more point. I think at this point, Kurt thought that they were just going to be another a band of their scene, like the Melvins or whatever. I mean, where you just kind of make these very difficult to listen to, kind of just for a specific group type of album.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you expected within less than 24 months that they would that they would evolve so quickly, and as far as being as aggressive and getting themselves out there too. I mean, you kind of found that out later, that Kurt was actually very kind of aggressive in his hustling his material and getting the records out there, because he didn't really. I think from seeing him in the general. Consciousness, that he was very much kind of an anti, but that wasn't true. He actually did take his record, to every radio station he could, and talk to every just to get his that there was a level where he wanted to be successful. Mm-hmm. Maybe not to the level that he ultimately got to, but but it wasn't like a lot of other people of that scene who just wanted to stay where they were.
Well, that's why in general the anti-corporate shtick just never ages well. It works really well when you're 14, but when you look back at it, it's like you have to play the game to get that big.
Oh, I know.
It's just you have to, and nobody got that big without doing it. Or maybe today you have a better chance, but back then you had to sell out just right from the top. So at least I guess this is the album that we can get to that is kind of pre-sellout or whatever, if you want to say it that way, that this is kind of the Nirvana at its core. So let's get to the songs.
Go ahead.
We got 11 of them to get through because we're going off the original release of this record. Kevin, take it away.
Yeah, we're going to start, for those of you following along at home, we're going to start with Blue, and starting it at 1:15.
Yes, for a quick note for everybody who's joining us for the first time on the Twitch stream, we are not sending audio through Twitch because we would get copyright flagged. So thanks to the record industry, you're going to have to listen to music in silence. Follow parts of the song to listen to there.
Yeah.
You knew that one was going to show up because
It's a part of the song.
God,
Deal with it.
that had to be the worst guitar solo I have ever heard in my life from a band that is big as this band is. That was so bad. I can see why the entire genre abandoned it. It was the kind of thing that nukes an entire generation of guitar solos. And you know what? I would have bought it. I would have been okay if he did some kind of snarky anti-solo. Like, I'm just going to like fake shred, or I'm just going to be just like, I'm just going to do just pick bombs, or just like play up at the top of my, you know, like above the bridge, or I would buy that. But this is just so freaking bad. It just sounds like there's like major key or major notes and a minor key stuff going on, and it just sounds like a seventh grader. Like, honestly, I could probably get better solo when I'm a seventh grader. So don't even, why was it there? Like, that's the whole point of the genre. And you know,
I don't know, maybe it was
still cool stuff in here. Like the drop C tuning is pretty gritty. Like, it's all sloppy, but you know, they didn't have the scale guitars that we have now. But man,
I would say the first half of that solo is decent, and then you start to hear where the notes start going sour and they start kind of falling out, where he, like, I don't know, maybe he was making this solo up on the spot and he had a good idea, and then he kind of lost it, and it's like, well, we only got $600. It's good enough. Keep it. Let's move on to the next one.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
I appreciate the mixing on this record, as raw as it is. I love how you can really hear every instrument pretty well. I mean, the drum sound is great. You could hear Chris kind of moving around. I heard somebody say, or I read somebody say, that they wish that the guitars were doubled and panned better. Like, keep everything the way it is, but just pan the guitars a little better. Yeah. And I can almost kind of hear what they're saying. It almost sounds a little bit mono-ish in a way, but it's crazy too, because you go to the next record and it's so polished and professional, and then you get into Inner Utero and it's a little bit more back to where they're going with this one. But yeah, this is a song where I really appreciated it watching like live versions of it. And I knew about the song for a while, but maybe I didn't, for some reason, didn't remember that it was called Blue. Like, I had seen it or heard it in like various live sets. I'm like, oh yeah, I know that song. Oh, it's called this one. Oh, okay. Yeah, sure. So yeah, this is, I think, one of the better ones on this record. I happen to like this one. Not a top favorite, but
it's not a bad song. Like, it's decent songwriting.
No, yeah, it's so funny. I can see how much everybody's struggling not to, as far as what our stronger musical foundation is, because again, a lot of this is intentional as far as what it's supposed to.
That solo is not intentional. He just sucks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know. Like I say, he was not known as and maybe that was him trying to, again, because I think he was a closet kind of 70s rock guy. I mean, that was, I don't know, maybe him just trying to. No, I know that. Yeah, like I said, that was not he's not that kind of guitar player. I know maybe he should have, like you said, maybe he should have done more like a Sonic Youth thing. Yeah, where you just do all these weird kind of avant-garde. But yeah, I think I think under the surface, I think his heart was, there was a part of him that just maybe wanted to. He was just fighting. Maybe he shouldn't. Maybe somebody should have said no. But again, it's like they're going in there, and I'm sure they just want to, okay, you have a limited budget. Okay, let's just get you in and out. Yeah, this is not like Columbia Records or Atlantic. Yeah, this is
Does it cost that much to just cut the section though?
I'm sure it makes all those people who spend hours practicing so grateful that they have success.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, it's hard to approach. Just jumping from one comfort zone to another. But again, like you said, it sounds great. That's after listening to clips from other bands of their scene. Yeah, I will say the production on and throughout the album. I mean, it sounds a little. You can hear everything a little bit better. It's not as kind of muffled as some of the other bands where. I think there was a little bit more of a conscious effort to make it sound more, or less jaggedy, I guess. Mm-hmm. And so you can kind of give it to them. Again, this is so difficult. Yeah, just seeing where they went. I mean, this record is almost like you said, I think, Kevin, like it's almost like a demo. Yeah, compared to what came out, but it's an official studio record, so it's And compared to Metallica, I mean, at least there is some similarities between the second and third record with the first. But here, I mean, it's almost unrecognizable. I mean, if you were somebody in '92 who came into it on Smells Like Teen Spirit, I mean, you were probably like, "What God?
Sure.
What's this?" This is an album. These are songs for the underground in Seattle and Aberdeen. Yeah, this is not for and it just happened that the band on the second record ended up where a lot of this material came into the forefront. And so we're here to critique it the best we can.
Well, and there's a lot of I mean, you hear it in Metallica stuff too, and I'm not going to put this on the same level, but like it's not a great guitar solo by any means, but like we always talk about the Weedle in Metallica, where Kirk runs out of ideas and then he just keeps going and he's just throwing stuff around.
This is bad though. This is this is terrible.
Sure.
And
it's
it
probably
should
not
ruin the
an
song,
idea.
which would have been fine.
And I don't know if it's tongue in cheek where he's trying. I don't really know what his thought process is. I know, he's not the greatest guitar player in the world. I would say he's creative in some aspects, but a lot of his solos really just mimic the vocal melody, which you could call that lazy or not. It's kind of a safe option. But hey, I mean, a lot of like punk solos would do that too, where like it's not the point. It's
You're
like
right.
when I'm not a great guitar player and I know that, but I'm just trying to write like a decent song and I need something to fill this section of the song.
Right.
And I'm just gonna like tongue in cheek make fun of a guitar solo and just do it. And I'm just trying to get out of my house and go and tour.
I just don't buy it on this one. It's just too much of like a Chris said, like he kind of wanted to be a guitarist, but nobody told him to stop. So this ended up on here.
Right, it's
like if he
possible,
would have
like,
just
I don't
gone
know,
crazy with it. Like if you want to make a statement with it, just go stupid with it. Smash your guitar. Have that be the solo. Like or something.
That would
have been great. Like like halfway through the song, you just heard like a
I would have bought that. That would have been cool. That would have been one great opener,
right?
If they had done
and
that.
that probably would have worked more for because I don't know as far as their fan base in 88, 89. I don't know even the sloppy solo like that. I don't know how that would have. Maybe that might have been too much. I don't know. I mean, because I know that was really. Yeah, even if I'm talking about for their scene, but or for their
But still, not a bad opener. I'm okay with it without the solo.
The solo. All right. Well, it's time to move on to Floyd the Barber. Again, we apologize to the streamers for not being able to put these through. That's something that we'd like to get taken care of. Contact Twitch, I guess.
Please.
And their algorithms for what would be pulling us down and then banning us for life. But this is Floyd the Barber starting at 142.
We're getting into some. It's funny. This was one of those uncomfortable but very fascinating songs. I mean, you read the verses and you're like, God, what the heck is he? Yeah, is he talking about? Yeah, a guy goes to get his hair cut and he ends up getting kind of dismembered and killed by the people inside the. I know Kurt had a dark sense of humor, but man, this is. It was funny. I was kind of reading up a little bit. I don't know how deep you guys went into it, but I guess the whole Floyd the Barber character came from that was a character on the Andy Griffith show, where he took that character, I guess, and then created this very dark kind of scenario that almost takes like a serial killer kind of. But this is probably the one time where the guitar tone really kind of like that pushed my. I mean, even for dirty kind of like trebly guitar tone, really kind of pushed what I can deal with. I mean, it works for I guess, again, for everything, you have to look at the context of a song. And I guess it works here. But yeah, this is more like, again, when you go into the deepest kind of ends of the darker sides of metal, where it's not really about, it's almost like black metal, like that kind of, it's not meant to be sonically pleasing, but it's supposed to drive whatever is going. Yeah, almost like you're watching a horror movie. And I kind of appreciate it from an artistic standpoint. Not necessarily that I would go back to that or I would look to utilize that guitar tone.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just another fascinating kind of something that you would again just surprising for people who came into Nevermind and come into something like this. I think it's great. I mean, I think it, just from just as far as just adding
from the absurd,
Right.
to the interest factor of a band where it's like, man, there's a lot of great talking points. Yeah, a lot of great things to dig into. But,
I would say that there's like 2 songs on this record specifically that are stocks on the rise. This one I was actually kind of familiar with because they, even in the Dave era, were playing the song and just how heavy those toms are and they like reverberate. It's almost like, I mean, once we get into In Utero, I mean, take it or leave it, but that's one of the greatest drum sounds ever with Steve Albini, just really capturing a raw analog sound of a drum kit in a room. And I think even Dave has said that he was very fortunate to have recorded with him and get that sound in his drums. And I almost feel like you can kind of hear that a little bit here, where it's just so raw and it's not really polished, and you can hear everything about the drum kit, and I love that. And I think Dale Crover from the Melvins played on this one, which you can kind of hear maybe a little bit of a difference versus Chad Channing on it. But yeah, this one's cool. It definitely has that sludgy, like I wouldn't say Blue really has the sludginess to it. This one does, where it gets really heavy and kind of, like you said, dark and kind of weird. And there's another song,
Megadeth.
Yeah, it's heavy and it's cool. Like there's some diversity on this record for sure. I mean, especially once we get into the next song. But this one and another song later on in the record where it's almost makes you feel kind of uncomfortable, like it would be in a horror movie or something like that. It's like very macabre-ish.
Yeah,
and it kind of works here for me on this one.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating. Yeah,
again, not one of my favorite songs on the record, but I can appreciate it being here. So.
Yeah, I've really kind of looked at this record just as kind of like an artifact of a moment in time of a band that would become almost like unrecognizable in certain aspects to what we were listening to hear. And I didn't really, after listening to it, like I think I listened to this album twice. I didn't really go back to it, but I just was fascinated by the approach. Just very that a band could just go from here to I mean, it took Metallica almost a decade to get to the next point. But here with Nirvana, they went from the gutter to to the top of the mountain.
I like how the way this one ends in a bit of a round. Kevin played the end of the track. That was kind of nice.
Oh yeah,
so just the way it tapers
that's
off.
true. I noticed that too, actually. There's the vocal stop or something, then guitar, bass, drums, and something like that.
Yeah, it feels like a machine coming to a clunky halt.
Stop.
Like so,
all right, well, let's move on to About a Girl. We're going to be starting this one at 148.
that is a song, whatever that guitar tone is and that kind of strummy playing, whatever you would call that, I hate it. But you know what? It's also, again, this is the personal preference versus how they changed the genre. This also sounds eerily similar to Metallica and something you'd hear off Load. Doesn't it kind of have like an Until It Sleeps kind of feel to it?
Sure.
With the southerny rock guitar, slower strumming, especially that ride.
Right.
Never as heavy as something like Until It Sleeps, but and here's how I'll put it. Like I said with Floyd, if you are influencing one of the biggest bands on the planet, you get a lot of credit. Even if I personally dislike it, I have to give you credit for that. So as much as I dislike that guitar tone, that type of guitar playing, gotta give him credit because it totally sounds like 92, 93 to me, and it's
It does.
89. It really just has everything.
Right.
Like it's super basic chord progression, just 1 1 3 3 1. Like it's just so basic.
Yeah.
But even that chorus though, Kevin, I don't think you played the chorus, but it sounds like he tried to write a 60s pop chorus. Like it just has that, like, I can't take you doing that thing you do at the end of it, which and it's not a real song, but like it really has that. And I like that a lot. Like it's got this weird, like, you know, just drony verse, but then it's got this pop chorus that I think maybe this is the song you're referencing. That is the one that previews what they would kind of go on to do next two records.
Yeah, I think this is the song that kind of like this is like the first without pissing off the like the hardcore fans, but this is like I feel like the first real classic song that would come to define Nirvana, as far as you can hear kind of all those little like melodic elements in there again that would dominate the next decade, like you said. Yeah, it's but it's weird. It still has. There's still something like that has it still in the '80s alternative scene. There's something. I don't know. Maybe it's just the production. It's not quite the '90s yet, but it's like the foot is going over the line. Yeah, that's where you're kind of jumping the
calendar's
rope.
Starting to turn.
Yeah, exactly. It's like in that transitional kind of shifting period. But what did you think of the solo on here at 121? Yeah, Mark.
This was better. I think I remember the
yeah.
What was it? 121.
Yeah, that's where it kind of starts. Yeah.
Loading for everybody. Sorry, waiting. I know what you're talking about. It's better. Like this one is just a little bit more of a groovy feel solo rather than just a nonsense 7th grade solo for sure.
Okay. And there was kind of an interesting, I don't know if you'll be able to cue that up either, at 226. There's like a chunky buildup that kind of is a little different than anything else on the song, where it's got this, where like that.
That solo is perfectly fine with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this is one of the songs where, yes, it was the first, or actually, it was not a single off the record. And I have to say,
That's
probably
weird.
it's probably obvious, but I'm pretty sure the MTV Unplugged version was the reason why people went back and discovered this song, because they open up that live album, and Kurt even says this song's off our first record. Most people don't own it. So yeah, he said in interviews that he was a fan of the Beatles, and then you go and you listen to interviews with Dave, during his Foo Fighters days, and he says he's learned to play music. His first instrument was guitar, and he sat in his room with a guitar and a Beatles songbook. So it's like these guys wanted to write this stuff, but maybe they were scared to do it, and like they gave you a taste of it, and then they're like, all right, well, everything else is going to be sludgy and for the hometown fans and for the basement show. But like this is here, and it's interesting to like think about what people would have thought about it if they heard it at the first time, because obviously it went to kind of influence people, and then you hear a lot of this really pretty songwriting on the next record, and maybe even a little bit on Utero. But yeah, this is a classic song and a fun one to play, nothing too difficult. And yeah, I think the solo is nice.
It's a songwriting solo. It's a song solo.
It's a song solo. Like you're not showing off here. It's just kind of like a vehicle to get to the next part, but it's catchy enough. And yeah, I can definitely hear some of that 60s kind of poppy influence, especially during that chorus. So
sure.
All right. Kevin, I've got my first question of the evening. I know
you do. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Here we go.
I didn't want to, as far as not being a little too bumpy and kind of throwing these in. All right.
Yeah.
This is a. I was actually changing. It was a true or false, but I kind of adjusted it to a multiple choice to make it sound a little better. Okay. Which Beatles album did Kurt get inspiration for in writing about a girl? Was it A, Meet the Beatles, B, A Hard Day's Night, or C, Rubber Soul? I know this is a
Beatles.
deep cut.
I
know.
No
Oh, boy.
trivia.
Just straining the
I
limits.
heard a horn.
yeah, is this a trick question? I thought it was neither of those.
That wasn't a choice. I know I could have thrown that in there, but
Okay, I'll go with. I'm sorry, you said A Hard Day's Night, Meet the Beatles, or Rubber Soul.
Meet the Beatles. A, Meet the Beatles. B, A Hard Day's Night, and C, Rubber Soul.
I thought it was Pleased to Meet Me, but yeah. But I'll go with Meet the Beatles.
You are correct.
Okay.
That is right.
I
Nice.
think I remember seeing the word meat in there, so I'll go with that.
Okay, that was good. Yeah.
All right.
All
Well,
right,
in the game trivia here, Kevin, what's next?
Yeah, we're gonna move on to School, starting
Sorry.
at.
I'm getting my albums wrong. Pleased to Meet Me is the Replacements record. What is it? Please Me or whatever is the first Beatles record. That's it.
That was
Please,
the one that
Please
was
Me.
before. Yeah,
That's the one I'm
think.
thinking of. Pleased to Meet Me.
I would know.
Yeah.
The Replacements
Get me
record.
fooled.
Yeah, there you go.
So, okay. Anyway, we're gonna move on to School, starting at. Until I'll tell you a little story. I was putting up the Christmas lights the other day and this song was on. I'm like, oh, this is kind of rocking. I kind of liking the dynamics of the song, everything that's going on. And then I paused and I probably let the Christmas lights slip out of my hands as I looked up to the sky and thought, is he actually saying no recess? And the song is about school. You gotta be kidding me.
Corny.
Tanked this song instantly. My notes: go push some broom. This harkens back to the Van Halen song about pushing broom. You
do you know
gotta
what
be
the
kidding.
song's about?
Yeah,
I
know,
don't
that's
care.
The
There's
problem.
3 lines in the song. It
Well, yeah,
can't
that
be
was the point.
about anything.
No, it
can't
is
be
actually.
about-
That's why I guess.
No,
Alex,
don't tell me a
no.
3-line song is about anything. That is just
Alex, do you wanna
made up
school him?
after the fact. That is made up after the fact. I do not care. I will not hear that it's about anything.
It is.
And
It's very much about something.
I heard that whole story about he sees these kids in the show that he didn't like anymore. But like, what is this? The first album?
That is so corny.
No,
is such corny.
it's about him going back to his high school and being a janitor after he graduated and seeing like all these people that. Well, and then the janitors never get any I don't care.
That's
Who
the
cares?
dumbest thing
That
I've
is
ever
so
heard in my
No one
life.
cares.
There's
It's a
no
great song.
story. There's no story. I'm
I
sorry.
don't care if it is a good story.
I
It's
just
so
wrote
corny.
a song about
Yeah, that's-
throwing my phone on the floor, and I have one thing to say about it. You have that whole story, and you can write 3 lines about it. That could have been
Yeah.
an interesting song, but all you managed to say was no recess. That's it.
Yeah,
There's
yeah,
not-
he was
that's
writing
garbage.
again. Yeah, he was writing it from the perspective of a snot-nosed kind of. Yeah, again, yeah. This is the. I can see this is the thing we're going to struggle with coming.
That's
Yeah,
one of those things where the author, all these people go back
I'm not
and
def-
analyzing the book after the fact. Oh, look at this imagery. Look at this that's going
I'm
on.
not-
The
I'm
author's
not
like,
def-
was it?
Kurt
Yeah, I'm
Cobain
not
is a
def-
lyricist. Unfinished poetry. That's
Yeah,
what I'm getting
this
right
has
off
got
the
to be
bat here.
this has got to be the one
not
that
good
he
poetry,
wrote the lyrics on the way to the studio.
Yeah,
I mean,
I'm not defending. Yeah, I'm not defending it, but-
the lyrics on this. I mean, this
But,
song.
and again, I had to
go
read
for
up on
it.
it.
Obviously,
Yeah.
I go to this song for the groove, the opening riff,
The opening
and
riff.
it just
Let me hear
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
The vocals
Yeah.
are. I
This
like the
This is
vocals.
the
Yeah,
first
the reverb
one.
on the vocals.
This
I
is
like.
the
Yeah.
first
Yeah,
song.
it's a very oh, I love the way this comes in. And you're gonna get foreshadowing to the next record on this. And the little
Right
flam
there.
with the kick drums.
That guitar right there is just the first instance on this record of the shut up guitar.
Oh,
Like
I
just
love
when
it.
like somebody plugs in a
Yeah,
Guitar
So
Center,
infectious.
and you just
Yeah,
that's not what I associate with it. I'm just
It's
sitting
simple.
there trying
It's
to get
two
like one
notes.
thing. Yeah, it's just like 1 to 3.
Yeah,
It's just-
two words and 2 notes.
I'm just sitting there trying to like get my little patch cable or whatever I need from Guitar Center so I can get out of there. And some kid plugs in and starts just dialing up one of these. And you're just like, oh, shut up.
into a crate that's busted.
Like
Yeah.
it's
It's got
Well,
a
I
speaker
mean, yeah.
that's
I don't know.
kicked in.
If you hear that one riff for 3 hours, sure, but eventually it progresses
Well,
and
but
gets
here's
into
the-
other chords, and
here's the
it's a
thing,
good
I like
live
that-
track.
I like that post solo section where the bass is grooving.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just the
Nice.
drums and the bass, like I like that. That's cool. Like that they had something there. You know, it's just that simplistic guitar tone. Like that part right there after that post solo section really evokes the image of a club band to me. Like kind of like a sweaty break just for the fans to catch their breath and kind of get back into the chorus again. But that riff, man. I don't know. I can't look past my bias on that one. That's just like we're well below the Billabong shorts in the Chicago Music Exchange practice room. Like we're just the bass 7th grader at
Yes,
Guitar Center,
we
plugged
know,
into
yeah.
the crate amp, like barely in tune, down tuned to
Yeah.
C, so sloppy, intonation so bad. You just want to blow your
This
brains
is
out. Sorry,
this is
Chris.
where-
I know where you're
far
coming
out of
from.
the wheel. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I could see I've lost you. I mean, I was gonna elaborate a little bit more, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, I can tell.
No,
Kevin
I'm
and I brought
into-
2 punches to this one. Bam, bam.
And it's weird, and I think we've talked about it before. When you have to have somebody explain the song to you, I understand that's never a good thing. But I did, just from maybe it was a little too simplistic as far as what he was getting at.
Even
you
the
can't
story's still
tell a
stupid
story.
and
You
cold
can't
and
tell a
angsty.
story and say in the beginning, okay, that's my story.
But isn't
Well,
that
there's
like
no
the-
end. There's
isn't
no
that like-
end. All you said
'cause
is in the beginning. You
and
didn't
isn't
tell
that
a
like-
story at
like,
all.
Tell me like how mature that story gets from when we're talking about bands like Floyd and Waters, and we're talking about some of the greatest discographies of all time, and then you just have like the corniest, most
That's the
teenage
point. Yeah, like
angst- I know it had to hit you at that time.
That,
I-
like I
I'm
said,
not
yeah,
there
and that's
anymore.
and I see that's why a lot of us weren't again. A lot of us grew up much more eclectic and a lot more into a lot of different kind of music that I guess you consider. I mean, much more sophisticated. I mean, if you want to do that, but that's not what this was.
Sophisticated. There's 3 sentences.
nothing-
in
No,
it.
I'm
You
when
can't
I was
get-
angsty,
no,
I
I
was
didn't
listening
say
to
I didn't say it was
Subdivisions by
sophisticated. No,
Ruff.
I'm
That
not.
was-
I didn't say it was. I wasn't saying it was sophisticated. I'm saying this is not sophisticated.
I think
music.
sophisticated and the lyrics of this song can't even be in the same room together because sophisticated you think of like lyrical poetry and things like that.
Right,
This
and
isn't
maybe-
this isn't
maybe that-
this isn't even a complete
that-
sentence.
and maybe that's a good
like
point that
that's
he's
not
kinda-
even this is somebody learning how to like talk for
right,
the
that you're
first time
kinda talking-
or where you
or-
tell a second grader write me a story and he decides to write about the janitor and you get 3 words that are like the
Right.
lines are like written off the paper. Come on.
And this might be the fault of the media in retrospective study of Kurt Cobain to say that this is a talented songwriter, the voice of a generation. Then you listen and you're like, what? Like if you would have just told me that this was just an underground punk record, I'd have been fine with it. I really would have.
Well,
Like, half
again,
of it is more than half of it is ruined
I
by
feel
that.
like you're judging this at the wrong time. Nevermind and In Utero aren't out yet. Like
Yeah,
nobody
it's hard.
nobody really knows about this band, and nobody in 1988 is calling Kurt the
this is-
songbird of the generation.
But
Yeah,
then
this is
we're-
pretty,
like,
this is
what
very much
was
a
his
record
outlet?
of the scene, where you just got a bunch of snot, kind of dirty, kind of whatever, just making, just this, as far as the epitome of meat and potatoes,
Well,
where
it
it's
better
not
improve a lot
developed, it's
from
not.
here, and I'm not hopeful that it will, from what I know about
But this
the
is
band to come.
this is the thing. We either are judging this based on the next 2 records or we are not. Because we can't be surprised and be like, wow, I can't believe what big steps they took between this and the next one.
Well, they did,
Sitting here today. No, I'm talking about sitting here today. Sitting here today, we cannot talk about Nevermind for the rest of the album then.
Right, then you could judge it a little bit lower. Then I'm still not. I'm still going to lower my review or my score. But
Right.
I'll
I'll
be
be
honest,
honest.
try.
I
We're
don't.
gonna
I don't
try.
give a. I don't give a shit about
try to
any.
whittle-
I don't
we're
give a
gonna
shit
chisel
about
away
any
my,
of the lyrics. This is a live jam that gets the place going and it grooves and it's catchy. And Kevin even admitted it. So
and that's what
there
it is.
you go.
Maybe
No,
maybe in
I
a live
give
again.
it
This
that
is
credit,
a. I mean, when you go to a show like this, you're in the moment of the energy of the show. You're not really listening to what he's he's doing. I mean, if anything, you're following the way that he's singing, just kind of like, and everybody's going nuts. Yeah, it's kind of
Right.
yeah, it's very much much different. These are not for the most part sing along. Maybe unless you're really into it. I mean, this isn't like Meshuggah where
I was
where
just
you're
gonna
not
say
really
Meshuggah. You go to a Meshuggah show and you just bang your head. It doesn't need to be technical, but it is, and I don't know.
Yeah, but this is kind of like an even more like primitive version, I guess you could say, of that, because I actually did do reference later as far as Meshuggah. There were some moments that kind of reminded me of that dissonant kind of uncomfortable.
And I guess this is where maybe, like, I don't know if the contender part comes out in this, but and I realized some of these records didn't come out till maybe a year or so later, but you look at bands like Alice in Chains, Smashing Pumpkins, and Pearl Jam, like way more technically talented bands than Nirvana is. But what was it about Nirvana that did it? Like, Alice in Chains were like Jerry Cantrell, objectively a great guitar player. So was Billy Corgan, and they were like classic rock guys that, you know, could shred and were much more talented than just kind of playing simple power chords that Kurt was playing. And yeah, you could say it was more of his lyrics and maybe his image and the way he touched people. So yeah, I guess maybe that's it. But there's like enough catchiness in the music to kind of please that side of it. So yeah, it's baffling to me sometimes. Like, I love the band now in retrospect because I can appreciate it later on. But like at the time, I wouldn't have thought like, oh, this was going to be the band that was going to do
big
it.
Thing, yeah.
So it's a mystery to me too, and I don't know if there was underground stuff going on where maybe something in the record label was like, okay, we really need to change from this, hair metal scene that's going on right now. Let's just pick these guys, and we're going to push it so hard that we're going to force people to recognize and understand that this is the new way. Who knows? I don't.
I just mean
really
that
interesting.
I knew going into this, Alex, like your point about Alice in Chains and the Smashing Pumpkins and kind of like those other bands being more technically talented and able. And I
Sure.
knew that people had always said like, you know, Kurt as a guitarist is like pretty poor. Not
Yeah,
like
he's average.
You know, like yeah, exactly.
I
Nothing
think he
to
probably
write home
would
about.
have been
And
said that
yeah,
the same
he
thing.
probably would have said the same thing. So in that case, I'm going into this album looking for the other stuff. Like, okay, so he's known as this lyricist, this thinker, this stuff.
And that was
you know,
and
all
that was
this.
that was not developed yet.
voice.
and it's
Yeah.
not hitting on any of those levels for me. So you're not hitting
Sure.
on the music and you're not hitting on the
Right.
lyrics. So I'm left with
Right.
not-
I get-
like
the
I'm
energy-
scraping
the
the bottom
energy
of the
is there.
yes.
Right.
the
Yeah. Like I
energy.
said,
Yeah,
I
it's
agree
like
with
the
you, Kevin.
energy.
Again, it's never a good thing when you have like a concept and you have to explain it later on as far as what the meaning of the. I mean, like with like Pink Floyd, you can sit there and you can kind of talk about Roger Waters. Like, okay, we can come up with your own. But here, where it's like you're working with a very little. I don't hate it. Like I said, I went from it from a different perspective. Just again, looking at the. Yeah, this is not Pink Floyd. This is not progressive. Yeah, this is the anti-progressive. If you want to, maybe for better and for worse.
Sure.
So that's why I had to put on a different hat. Yeah, for that kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right,
And
well,
yeah.
yeah, it's time to move on. I didn't think that was going to explode into that, but we're going to get to what I believe is a cover song, which is Love Buzz, and we're going to start this one at 1 minute and 40 seconds.
I think when we were talking last time, this is the one song I came across from this album, even before we started talking about Nirvana, that I really enjoyed. I know it's a cover song, but I love like that opening bass riff, how Chris kind of reinterprets. I don't know if you guys listened to the original track from the Shocking Blue. I think was the original, the band from that 60s psychedelic band. Right. It's a little different. Chris kind of changes that main riff a little bit because there's a hammer on in the original one, where here he doesn't really do that. It's just kind of dun 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 dun. Yeah, there's not a lot of. But I love how it kind of breaks up the kind of the harshness of the record. I think it kind of. And I love the very trebly power chord that kind of drives the song. It just works so well in that context. I just thought that was really interesting. Funny enough, I guess Kurt initially wasn't a fan of doing this, but I'm kind of glad that they did. Yeah, kind of because again, I don't think there was any other anything like it on the record. I was surprised they kind of got that. They were able to reinterpret those kind of exotic scales on here.
Yeah, it's an interesting pick for a cover. I mean, I didn't know of Shocking Blue before this song. I don't know how popular they were at the time.
They did that song Venus. I know Bananarama remade that song in the 80s.
I'm Your Fire, Your Desire. Yeah.
They were what I was expecting to hear.
I know. Yeah, they were. Yeah, but yeah, Shocking Blue was the band that originally. Yeah, because I don't know. I guess Shocking Blue had a discography that was cover worthy. I guess, but yeah. In very weird spots, but it was funny. I had to listen to the other a couple of them. Like, the guys did alter it a little bit. Even some of the lyrics, I guess, Kurt changed some of the verses just to fit what he wanted to do better.
And for somebody who has been in bands where I've done cover songs, and it's like you could either choose to cover it exactly, how it is on the record, or make it your own. I think they actually did a really good job of making this their own. Like, I love that it's heavier, and it's got some of that sludginess with the raw production on it, but there's that pretty catchiness in it where it covers that aspect of the band too. It's like an interesting choice, but it's like, okay, yeah, this almost sounds like a Nirvana. Like, you wouldn't think of it to be a Nirvana song on Bleach at the time, but it's like, I could see this kind of fitting on Nevermind.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it kind of works. So I think it's a good choice. I don't know if I would have necessarily picked it as like the lead-off single.
Right, I think he was not happy about that from what I read. Yeah, but it,
like, I would have picked my own song, but also like I almost kind of get it. It's like, all right, well, it's got some of the heaviness to it. It's got the catchiness to it, and I don't know if it would alienate people right away.
I know it's weird,
like a safe middle ground almost.
Again, I thought it was great, but I can see how this would kind of maybe again just piss off that. But I thought it was an interesting. I think it kind of helps break up against some of that kind of harsher, kind of weird stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of gives a little bit of flow.
All right. Well, we are just about halfway through the album.
Oh wait, hold on.
You have another question.
This doesn't necessarily have to do with Love Buzz, just another kind of general question.
Sure.
All right, this is a true or false question. Jason Everman, who contributed the money to record the record, is credited as a second guitarist on the record, but didn't actually play on it. True or false?
Oh, I think that was quick.
Was that Alex? Yeah.
That is true.
You are right. All right.
Yeah, just walking this one.
Yeah. There's 2-0 on Alex, and no hope from this side of the table. That's for sure.
Okay. All right. Anyway, sorry to interrupt you there. Let's go.
Like I said, we are about halfway through the album. That means we are on paper cuts. We're going to start this one at 1 minute and 19 seconds.
Yeah, there's a pretty healthy amount of like. Finally, we've gotten to a point where at least the textures have evolved, or at least become a little bit more layered, to where I'm interested in it. It almost has a bit of a Alice in Chains kind of feel
Yeah, I
to
had
it.
that written there. Yeah,
Um,
especially in the verses. Yeah,
yeah,
like that.
and I've read before, heard somewhere where somebody's complimenting Kurt Cobain in terms of nobody before or since has been able to channel pain through their voice as well as he
Yeah.
has.
You hear it on
And
this one.
I say that this is one like, and maybe you're annoyed, and maybe it's just kind of sounds like a horrible scream, but I mean, I listen to a lot of Children of Bodom, and that's all really corny, just all kind of the same stuff too, and a lot of this guttural metal. But something about this one, the way that he is able to put out that scream, and then you hear at the very tail end of what Kevin played there, that it transitions to a little bit more of a cleaner melodic voice just at the very end, and it kind of reminds me of the opposite of what you might hear from a Sebastian Bach, who would do a scream and then into a completely clean voice at the time in Skid Row or something. Like it was kind of like his own unique take on that kind of style, but just really getting so
Right.
gritty with it. So I appreciate that one, and really just the doom feeling of this one. I think holds up well, much better than a lot of the content has so far, or a lot of the songs have so far to this point.
It was really weird too. That main kind of bouncing riff almost sounds like a black metal riff from that. And from what I read, I guess Kurt was listening to Celtic Frost. Yeah, I mean, who
Yeah,
was kind of
at
one
the
of the
time.
progenitor. Yeah, so I'm like, wow, this has got some black metal in there, which fits. Again, you got a song about. I think Kurt was trying to get at about parents locking up their children indefinitely. Again, another real cheery topic. Whether psychologically or literally, that was kind of one thing that I couldn't. I mean, you never really knew, especially at this point. I think there's a lot of ambiguity or just nothing at all. Like I said, just throwing stuff together. But I think this was a little bit more kind of thought out. Yeah, kind of like Floyd the Barber, another dark kind of
Yeah.
it's the darker side of human nature. And again, executed just as well. And again, a lot of things going on here. Also, there was a little bit, and I don't know if how much Phil Anselmo from Pantera, if he was into this record at all, but there were some certain parts where, like when Kurt starts screaming, where it kind of reminded me like when Phil gets up into those higher. Yeah, Mark? Can you
I
play
hear
like
that.
around 320? Yeah, just so I can point that out.
Sure.
Interested to know if that was because yeah, and that's
Yeah.
where I started paying attention. I'm like, I wonder. And there's a lot of stuff where you kind of associate it like that's the sound of a band, but it's like here you're hearing it a couple years earlier with Nirvana, like whether it was Alice in Chains or whatever, or Pantera or whatever. Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned Floyd the Barber because this is a song that I actually wasn't aware of. I mean, we're starting to turn into the side of the record that, well, minus the next song, I was pretty unfamiliar with tracks 6 through 11. I'll be honest, but this is one where at first I listened to it and I'm like, I didn't really do it for me. But then I kind of read what the song was about and like something just kind of clicked with it where this is like a big stocks on the rise song for me because like you said, Mark, there's something about it like there's just it's so like hard and heavy and the fact that it's like the production is almost not slammed and bricked walled where it almost like lets it breathe in a way. I don't it just really captures the emotion of this song and it like makes you feel uncomfortable and like you said there's almost like this southern like Louisiana bayou creepy swampy part like you said the Alice in Chains and I just thought of this right now. I don't know how familiar you guys are with the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, like
70s one.
like the 70s one, like the really crappy production, like a college made film.
Mhm.
If you were to put this song over some of those scenes, like maybe when they're driving through to the house, I feel like it just totally fits that vibe.
Oh, it's very
And
horrorcore.
It's
like
very, it's
horrorcore.
like horrorcore. and it like so works with this song. Yeah, I happen to really like this song, and this is one where I would almost want to see them play it live, where like they're gonna play all the hits and all the poppy stuff, and then all of a sudden they're just gonna bust this one out, and everybody's just gonna be like kind of looking around, kind of freaked out a little bit, and you can see like the band really do like play the stuff where they came up like from the basement.
Sure.
Yeah. And there's some, and it's cool too. Like almost starting to appreciate Dave more, because you listen to songs that he would have recorded once he joined the band, like Aneurysm, for example, and maybe some stuff off In Utero, where he really honored Chad and Dale Crover's playing. Like, yeah, he was probably a more solid drummer technically than both of those guys, but a lot of the moves he would pay homage to them with a lot of like the bell hits. And the way he would just kind of tune his tom drums and stuff. It's like I appreciate that. It's like he was probably the perfect amalgamation of all the drummers into Nirvana at that point. So I like that.
All right, well, let's move on from Paper Cuts onto Negative Creep, starting at 1 minute and 30.
This is the moment where I was talking about as far as the bluntness of Meshuggah, where it's dissonant. It's I will say the repetition is a little kind of though, like the main verses though, and like in the chorus in the beginning, I think is perfect. Funny enough, I don't know, he almost for a moment sounds like Lemmy. Yeah, Mark, can you play just the opening? Yeah, I could just the way he's got like that growl that Lemmy.
God, his voice is so good.
Yeah, right there. Yeah, just
that
yeah.
points.
Well, yeah, I don't like I said. This is I don't know. Again, this is just the kind of spitting. Yeah, kind of. I mean, again, this is not like the Sex Pistols or the Clash at this point. Yeah, this is more. This is even more kind of in the sewer, I guess, if you want to call it that. Yeah, it's not. It's when you walk out of it, you gotta take a shower after you listen to stuff like this.
It's like overkill or something.
Right, yeah, even that like that repeated chorus at the end, which is very uncomfortable. Which again, I think that goes back to where Kurt was just throwing uncomfortable lyrics just out of nowhere. Yeah, this little girl, or what was it? What's the main? It's funny with how much it's repeated. I should be able to remember it.
Daddy's little girl and a girl no more.
Yeah, there's like just that weird kind of
Oh, it was I'm a negative creep. I'm a negative creep.
Yeah, and he kind of said this is a song just about him being just like self-deprecating, like he's just a negative human being, and that's and you feel it, I guess.
How
again, I'm not defending.
How nuevo.
Yeah, I'm not gonna get another Kevin argument with you. Yeah, as far as
this is like the heavier version of School, where School was the faster punk groovy one. This is just the full-on sludge. It's just very caveman, dumbed down, and I think I'm starting to like kind of
caveman rave. So they're
sure,
sticks bashing each other.
Sure, but then and I almost kind of get, I almost kind of like get why this worked, because I don't know, it just captures like a vibe and an image so well, like with the way they looked and the way the cover looks. And like the way he sounds and his voice, it's just like, it's nothing impressive from a technical aspect, but it like works more on like an emotive tip and like a feeling, like a visceral feeling where it like gets you to feel a certain way. And there's a lot of records where I'll like listen to stuff and like, yes, and don't get like Van Halen was my first favorite band. Like I love and Rush. Like I love bands that can write really smart technical stuff, and I envy that, and I try to be that as well, in some of my playing. But then there's also stuff like this where I could appreciate it, where it's like it's drawing something, whether it's an uncomfortable feeling or
it's from
what.
The id.
But it's
like
talk about like it's like capturing something on tape. Like they were kind of masters at doing it somehow.
Yeah,
I don't know if it was right place, right time, or like the luck or what.
Yeah, you could say this is the epitome of primal music. It's not meant to. Yeah, it's just.
I think that uncomfortable feeling that we're all feeling is the uncomfortable feeling of looking over in freshman math class and seeing that one kid's lyrics that he's been writing, all class, and being like, "Oh,
was this guy gonna
creep? I'm a negative creep." I'm like, "Oh, okay, interesting. He thinks he's so
kind
edgy."
of guy who thinks it's edgy to draw swastikas on the underside of the desk. He wrote like "I hate life" on his backpack, and he's like just makes a whole image. I just can't escape that feeling.
Right. And Kurt was that up until he was that.
But he's not 14 anymore, is he?
Yeah.
Writing music.
Well, maybe
maybe
he was singing. Yeah, that was his audience. Yeah, it was. Yeah. Yeah, he's not singing to the Rush fans or the he's singing to the.
That's for sure.
To the.
Okay, what band would you consider to the level of emotion from any genre? What would you consider superior? Just curious.
What just pure emotion or what?
Whether it's musical or not, whether it's impressive or not, like from a musical standpoint.
I don't know. Maybe I know I keep going back to that. Maybe Peter Gabriel from the earliest records on. I mean, there's a lot of weird.
We talk about it all the time, like Warm Blankets, and there's like times where like Pink Floyd's very good at doing it too, like the way they craft songs and like vocal hooks, like Van Halen too, where there's something where it hits that spot in your brain where it releases.
Where everything's kind of connected too.
Everything connects and it works, but there's something that they can do more on a, I don't know, like make you feel kind of like you said, it's like with the horror rock, and there's something there where it just like, ooh, I almost feel like a little uncomfortable and spooky, but I'm like, it's like a car crash where it's like you can't look away. There's like aspects of it where like I kind of get it, like the way they looked, and you look back at it and it's like very dirgy and low budget, and it makes you wonder why like some of those more punk stuff didn't work. But like, I don't know, it's a mystery to me, but like I can't explain it. But part of me like gets it. It's like I kind of, it's doing something to me.
I brought that up because I'm also struggling.
And I'm baffled too. And I've said this.
That is another artist that put out an album that is as viscerally emotional as this one. And I could, from something that we've covered, I could think even, it's not going to win any points, but the Final Cut from Pink Floyd / Roger Waters. Yeah,
that's an uncomfortable, emotive record. This is a dark emotive record from the dark rainy areas of Washington. Yeah, this is not. Right. Yeah, you have to look at geographically too. Yeah, we're not talking about England. We're not talking about California, New York, or whatever, or even Scandinavia. Like on the metal. Yeah, this is a very specific area with a very specific group of people. Yeah, that embraced a very specific ideology. Yeah, which again
you wouldn't say Kill 'Em All.
What? Kill 'Em All is
the early Metallica doesn't.
Well, I mean, it's meat and potato, but I think there was a little bit more virtuosity there. I mean, the riffs are a little bit more.
No, I'm not talking about emotion. I know, just the straight anger.
It was
that
there.
And Justice.
Yeah, I think with Metallica though, I think it was still a little too, I guess, well formed as far. I mean, where here it just sounds like God.
Well,
you know what I mean. More
it has to be bad for it to be angry.
You have to be a simpleton in order to be angry.
Caveman.
Well, that's why I said
corporation's bad.
I'm not putting down. I'm just saying. Yeah, and that's why there are so many different genres of music, especially in the rock communities. For there are different ways ways of being angry, different ways of looking at the world. That's what we're doing now.
I'll just say it makes
We're
sense why this
new
band sounds the way they do, coming from where I was just in like Portland, and it's just overcast, and there's a lot of. I'm not going to get into
not a lot
like
of opportunity. I don't know anymore.
I'm going to be in Seattle
yeah.
too, so I'll let you know how that vibe goes.
No, but it's like I feel like
I hope not.
It's like I feel like I get it. It's like it could be depressing. No offense to anybody that lives there, but like
but why are we all?
I'm not trying to justify anything. I'm just saying. Personally,
we're just giving you the context of what we're dealing with, the type of what the scene.
Yeah, but
what the
I
kind of
think
scene
we
that it was.
are totally forgetting something here. Is that we're all focusing on negative emotion? Like, are you telling me 5150 does not like hit the positive emotion vibe?
Well, we're not talking about
Of course
well,
not.
No. We're talking about records with emotion. We're talking about records. Mark specifically brought records that bring emotion, and happy is just as valid.
And you
yes,
heard
you
me
did
ask him,
say
what are we
that.
talking about specifically, like, as far as emotional? Because, that would run the gamut. I mean, even the records we talked about in our top 5, the last one we did. I mean, those are all emotive records, as far as songs that get the speakers going.
That's why I said Warm Blanket. There's bands that...
Yeah, I'm talking here. This is from the most kind of, like, again,
this draws out another emotion.
Yeah,
yes, I know, like but Mark specifically asked the question about, is there another more emotive album? That's all the question is about. Not about anger.
That's an open-ended question.
Yeah.
Again, what are we talking about? Are we talking about warm blankets? Are we talking about feeling like slitting our wrists? What are we talking about? Yeah, like what kind of emotion are we talking about? Yeah,
any emotion.
It doesn't matter.
Well, you just threw a massive net, like one of those. Yeah, like the.
Yeah, okay, I'm sorry I brought a good question to the table. Let me go back to the caveman speaking. Talk about how school sucks.
I'm not saying this is the most emotive record at all. That's absolutely not what I'm saying.
No,
I'm just saying
I'm saying it's just a very
it does something, and I get
it's okay. Let's say it's raw. It's like it's on the darker side of human nature. Yeah, it's maybe that's what I should have said. It's a very emotionally raw.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, like 5150 is not emotionally raw. I mean, it's too polished. Yeah, we're not talking. And we have to take ourselves.
Why is anger raw and happiness polished?
I don't know, because you have to work on yourself to feel good. I don't know. Yeah, it doesn't take much. Yeah, to feel. Yeah,
happiest unpolished albums. I don't know, Simon and Garfunkel or something.
No,
yeah, I guess if you want to go like the earliest part, well, I don't know. Yeah, I guess, yeah.
All right, that's for another day.
I mean, you think about like, we were playing earlier for, Kevin and I are brothers, and our dad was over. We were playing like Genesis songs that Phil Collins wrote during his breakup. I mean, that's super emotive and sad, still polished.
Yeah, a different kind of. Yeah, that's yeah. This is not. Bleach is not really reflective. It's just like in the moment. Like I feel like this. I feel like
I'm angry.
Yes,
like,
and that's what it is.
My
this was
parents,
the moment. Like, Mark, you were talking about it. Yeah.
I have to wonder though how genuine some of it is.
Oh, none
I'm just gonna put that out there.
You know
why? You know why? Because if you're writing lyrics in the car on the way to the studio, or like standing in front of the mic, I don't know, like what are you? Is somebody pumping you up to be angry or something?
And we're going to sidetrack with this one another. I was reading about early Nirvana, or maybe a little after they broke big. And it's just when you look at these things retrospectively, and the internet has exposed you to everything. And you read these interviews from Kurt Cobain, how he was talking about how they were going around in their early days and spray painting on the backs of trucks, "God is gay," on the back, like a 90s thing, like a 90s angsty, like, wow. And like, now you look back at the history of music and you're familiar with like Mayhem, who are eating each other's brains and burning down churches. And like, it's just like, that's really corny, Kurt. Like it just doesn't age at all. Like, and it's not their fault or whatever, but it just doesn't come across. It doesn't sell. And Like if
it doesn't age well, but we're
not at
talking
all.
about we're talking about a moment.
Yeah,
in time.
in the
I mean,
moment,
yeah,
I
yeah.
guess
And even like with Mayhem, the black metal, that was a moment, yeah, where you didn't really get that. Yeah, you had like that 90 to 94 era, which was really messed up, and then it kind of got campy.
And what I've always
Really,
said is
yeah.
that, like this music is forever preserving moments in time on record. And to this credit, that's one of the reasons I give it a couple of points. Even if
Right,
the songwriting
and that's what it is. Like I
complete
said, you have to look
garbage.
at it from her perspective. Yeah, I wouldn't say this is necessarily timeless. It's like I said, it's an artifact of a moment. Yeah, yeah.
All right.
Probably more
I'm
than
gonna
anything. Yeah.
I'm gonna shut my trap for the rest of the album, and we will move on to Scoff.
Come on! I want to fight some more.
Yeah, you don't gotta be a sore loser about it. Let's just keep the healthy discussion
I'm
going.
sticking in here.
Hey, Alex, you want help installing your pickups or not? That's all I'm saying.
Do it myself.
Okay.
There we go.
No, I just don't want to. My point is, I don't want to get too sidetracked because some of these
But
things
it's
end
important.
up
Like
into
this is
have to
huge
with this record,
discussions.
though.
we're out of our comfort zone here, which is great. That's what makes for great emotive. There we go, emotive discussion. Yeah, our
That's
discussion
true.
is emulating what
The
we're
record.
talking. Yeah.
It would if I said the same thing over and over. 55 seconds starting at Scoff.
This one.
Really?
This one, I think, finally finds the formula. I guess in some ways, Paper Cuts also did as well. That whole part that, have you ever dealt with an addict, an alcoholic, whatever, like that, give me back my alcohol, give me back, like that repeat, just that, like it's so true. Like, and I think that there's an authenticity there. And I also like how each of those lines is a little bit different and a little like a different state
Right.
of panic, which each of them, which I think fits the topic of the song well. The way it kind of has the ups and downs of, do you have these just this really groovy, again, that start stop machine, and he
Right.
starts repeating the whole "give me back my alcohol," and then you have just this almost this very smooth texture, probably the smoothest on the whole record, with the choruses here, or pre-chorus,
Yeah.
whatever you might call them. So I think this song really hits the formula. I don't know that anything on this might qualify for a warm blanket, but in terms of just kind of making me feel whole, like there is something
Right.
like
It-
this
it brings
song
it
and
back,
Paper Cuts
yeah.
kind of has that I see why feel to it. Where
Yeah.
it's a very jagged album, where Negative Creep and No School or No Recess are just not there. Like, so at least we're getting some of it. That's what I'm at least positive about on this. That this is a good track. I think I would even call this a Stocks on the Rise.
Yeah, I agree.
Interesting.
I like how, like, especially in the like those really guttural, I said, dirty blunt force verses, where it sounds like a kid just kind of in his room, just like looking like at the camera, just like talking about what he's going through, like living through his dysfunctional family environment. I thought that was kind of and it's nice when Kurt actually sits down and kind of focuses in his lyrics a little bit more, where he kind of tells the story, where
I think
instead
there's one
of just
line that's like, in your bedroom, I'm not older.
yeah,
That's
hold on, let
that's
me.
the one from this song. I mean, even that, like, if you're gonna repeat no
Yeah.
recess, no recess, no recess, that's so cheesy. What was the other lyric that Kevin mentioned? That there's some dork, edgy kid writing on his math notebook. I forget what that one was, but
I'm a
there's
negative.
a
I'm
lot-
a negative creep.
I'm a negative creep, yeah.
Yeah.
But like this, give me back my alcohol. When you repeat that over and over, it fits the context. It makes sense.
Because you can hear, because it sounds like how it would be spoken in
Yeah,
like
it-
you're
it's just kind of
describing
the repetitive
something from reality.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
repetition of addiction, and that
Right.
it works with that line in particular. If any other line, I would have hated it. It works here. I think that's great.
Yeah, this one's interesting because, like I was saying, once you get past Negative Creep, I really didn't know any of these songs, and I'll be honest, none of them really did anything for me after this.
Okay.
Like
We're crossing each
it,
other on the other way, going the
no,
other way.
it's weird. It's like I don't know. It's almost like It's a shame. I'm like kind of going for songs that I already kind of knew and loved outside maybe Floyd the Barber and Paper Cuts, but like I feel like if anything, there was more of earworms going on the first 7 tracks, and then like the last 4 is it's like almost very like primitive, like primal, right? Like in a way where it's like at least there's some like more proper structure in like the first 7 songs, or at least in these like last 4, it's like
In terms of the
See,
album organization?
yeah. Well, it just seems like the first 7 songs are the best songs on the record, and the last 4 like these are like the first 4 songs that they wrote. There's just something about it. It just seems more chaotic and less put together on these last 4 songs to me. And maybe it's more authentic in that way. Like maybe it fits their vibe a little bit more. But I don't know, there's like more of a professionalism, if anything, to the first 7. And as maybe you guys will come to learn, they didn't really play these last 4 songs live later on in the career, I don't think. I mean, the first
Nobody
7
wanted
songs.
to hear Mr. Mustache.
Yeah, it's like they would have played them like on this tour, but like the first 7 songs are the ones that survived, kind of even into like the In Utero days. I'm pretty sure, and it kind of makes sense to me. But I'm interesting that this is the one that did it for you, Mark. But I mean, maybe like lyrically, there's definitely more going on in this one versus School and Negative Creep. But
So
I don't
how
know,
will
like,
Kevin
just-
open his trap on this one and see what he thinks?
I thought wasn't he done? Wasn't he done?
The trap remains
making a
resolutely
statement, yeah.
closed.
Trap remains.
Yeah,
Shots.
I got a.
Though,
I got another.
Mark, I will
oh,
say
yeah.
that you made a decent point with this song in particular. That I didn't make that connection while listening to it because I had already tuned out to the repeated lyrics by this time in the album. But if
You
this
can say
were
there's
if
there's
this
structure
were a
here.
song on a 4-song EP, I would be like, hey, this has got something. I
Right.
think
Yeah,
you
that's a
could
good point.
you could make a brilliant 4-song EP out of this album.
Oh yeah.
That I would be so down to listen to, and in fact probably rate it probably like a 7 out of 10 instead of a 3.
Yeah,
But
I agree completely.
All right.
Yeah. So anyway,
I got another
you
question.
got a question? Okay, nice.
Okay, and this is just a short true or false question. Okay, Scoff's main drum line is nearly a direct ripoff of My Sharona. True or false?
Oh, I couldn't.
Yeah.
What? Why
That
do
was
I even
Alex.
bother?
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that was. I didn't. I thought that was just somebody making an observation, but I guess that was a conscious thing where I guess Kurt had the knack like in his record collection. I guess. Yeah, and that was. A thing
Oh,
that
I
he
didn't.
actually pulled.
I didn't know that it was like he was purposely trying to rip it off.
Suppose, yeah, like there was a thing where I think where I don't know if he was asked about it or if somebody or in discussion where somebody said that was something that was kind of around, where it kind of came into the
All right, poll
That's
discussion. Which one you choose, My Sharona or Scoff?
yeah.
Pass on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are going to start Swap Meet though
right,
right
so-
from the top. Nobody's saying a thing. You know what?
Nobody
Fine.
wants to
I'll-
be
I'll-
first.
Don't have much to say on
I'll,
this one.
I'll
I
open
did
my
actually.
trap on Swap Meet. I'll say that I'm sick of them not writing a whole song. They'll write a verse, one chorus, copy paste 3 times, done deal. Swap Meet.
All right. All right. I guess I did have a little bit more written about this. See, I said this is probably the most traditional of the grunge sound of that particular time. I mean, you could see like this is like at the club, everybody's kind of casually kind of dancing to it. Yeah. Not very different from probably what a lot of other bands were doing. But yeah, just kind of the most identifiable kind of format of that sound, especially with how Kurt sings. Yeah, that's another part as far as what would become like kind of like the grunge cadence of singing, like the singing style.
I was just gonna say I can't put my finger on what it is, but there's a song later on in the career that's much more popular than this one, and he's got the same exact cadence. Like you hear it first here, and I can't think of what song it is. Damn it! Right. I'm gonna come back to it later.
I love here, Kurt kind of getting and trying to write. I guess if you want to call it a pop song, this I guess has to do with. I don't know if it was or how much of it was true as far as that. I guess he spent a lot of time at like flea markets and stuff like that, and kind of meeting up with people or whatever, and connecting that to how people find their romantic partner. It was really weird. I don't know. He was trying to make all these connections. I think there was something that said that this is kind of how he met his girlfriend. I think as far as at like one of these little arts and craft shows. I guess it was more of kind of a sweeter kind of thing. Okay, he's just trying. He's dumping the negative creep stuff a little bit here, and he's going more for just going out for a nice like afternoon and just kind of meeting, kind of connecting with people. There is a weird little at 156 mark, like this weird like dissonant solo.
Yep,
I don't know.
I notated that.
Did you? Okay,
Kevin
yeah,
went
it was
to the next song, but I did notate that the solo at 2 minutes was much better.
He's already moved on.
I'll just read it to you. My solo much better, still very amateur, but at least fits the attitude of the band. So just imagine that, whatever that is, picture it in your head.
For all you who aren't listening on the live stream anymore, just go off Mark's description.
I play the Guitar Hero version of that solo.
I guess it's time to move on to the Moustache, Mr. Moustache, that is. And we're going to be starting this one at 2 minutes and 22 seconds.
Of a circular feeling that I think almost like a merry-go-round, so like some kind of wild ride. I don't know what the song's about. Can't say I care, but musically it does have that. At least it evokes that in response to me, and for all of this band and their notoriously terrible, whether intentional or not, musicianship, they really do that slow down quite well.
Oh yeah,
it's that it just sounds like like this one last turn of the whale, and they just can't get any slower. It gets a little bit slower, and then it finally comes to a stop. So credit to that. Not really any kind of incredible hidden gem in the back here, but at least it's got some things going for it.
Some of the lyrics kind of made me laugh a little bit. Yeah, and I love the flow. Not that they're not kind of stupid in a lot of, but I just love the flow of like the nonsense where you've got. Like, take my hand and give it cleaning as I eat cow. I am not proud.
Oh, I remember
don't know.
that.
And then the classic easy in an easy chair, poop as hard as a rock. I don't like you anyhow. Seal it in a box. Damn you. I don't know. Talk about such a like a teenage kind of angst kind of Yeah, I mean, nothing that I would ever write in a million years write anything like that. It just kind of it was.
It's kind of
It
like,
was nice to
like
kind of
the
laugh a little
goth
bit.
kids from South Park and their poetry.
Right.
Yeah,
but yeah.
I don't have a whole lot to say about Mr. Mustache, unfortunately. But I will say, again, this is the song that really reminds me of Black Flag, especially like Reagan guitar playing, which they were Southern California, like one of the first Southern California hardcore bands that were really kind of typical fast punk stuff, but eventually they started getting a little bit more jazzy and kind of proggy in their playing, which kind of, in a way, made them stand out from a lot of other bands from that era. And I'll just put a little something in the chat. You may hate this. I won't necessarily say that I'm a big fan of it, but this is an intro little bit. Can I? How would I do this? I could just put this in the sync tube. Anyway, that's just a little bit. I heard that. I'm like, where have I heard that riff, that like kind of chromatic, awkward riff before? And I'm like, oh yeah, that's like that intro Black Flag song. So don't judge, for anybody who's, don't judge Black Flag off that song. Go listen to the other stuff, please. I know that's kind of weird, but yeah, that's when they started getting kind of like SST, like Celtic Frost, kind of sludgy. So
You know,
anyway,
it's fun. It was funny. One last thing before we move on. There was one funny little kind of little bullet point or fact that I came across. I guess as far as just the title, Mr. Mustache. I guess in the Seattle punk scene, I guess mustaches were looked down upon, and like anybody who either had them, or especially if they were in a band, I guess it was almost like you were like asking for it to be like ostracized from the. It was weird. I don't know what it's just I don't know if it was just that pretentious kind of like clicky kind of where like if you're not a certain way, but I thought that was such a stupid detail where you had to be pissed at somebody because I guess one of the drummers during that era that Kurt had in the band I guess had like a really like it's like a real like
he
one
was,
and I guess
he
got
was
to
removed from the band because he had a mustache.
yeah. Did you see that? Yeah,
No, but
yeah.
I'm just guessing that's what happened.
But yeah, I guess where they got like after the show where they were like a pro like confronted about it, like that this guy like being like like
Sir,
yeah.
sir, you either shave it off or you're out of here.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was kind of a funny
good
little
old M/Q.
Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Let's close this thing out with Sifting. And we're going to be starting at 1 minute exactly.
Kurt credit as far as just randomly just messing around with lyrics. I mean, I don't off the cuff. I doubt I could just throw stuff like this together at the last second. And maybe that's just me. I like a little bit of context, but yeah, just reading. Yeah. Wouldn't it be fun? Wet your bed. Wouldn't it be fun? Sun felt numb. Wouldn't it be fun? Your eyes, teacher said. Yeah, it's like okay. Yeah, I was more in Kevin camp where I just didn't feel like digging into the. I did like kind of. Yeah, I did like as far as the music. I did like kind of the more thrashy elements. I think I think it would have worked better in a thrash song versus here they kind of pull it back for more of that, kind of punk feel to it. But yeah, maybe adding a little bit more kind of lows and mids. But yeah, but that's just we're talking about early Nirvana here though, so you gotta be a little.
What that guitar riff sounds like to me, it's like a mixture of the thing that should not be in Leper Messiah off Master of
You're
Puppets.
Right. That dun, dun, dun,
There's
like
the way he plays, like if you were to play like a 3-fingered power chord, I think he's only just playing the what is it, the third and the fifth out of it, just like the 2 notes. He's playing like a lot of that. Yeah. And it's like, oh, that's kind of interesting. I didn't really hear him do that yet on this record, and it's kind of interesting.
I just wish it would have been a little fatter sounding. I think that was my only. But again, we're talking about the early Nirvana. Yeah, Mark, I know you walked away for a minute.
Hang on, I've got a example that might be relevant to what you were talking about. A Metallica song that was a couple of years later. For some reason, the chorus of this strongly reminded me. This is playing. It's got a skip video. Metallica, Attitude.
Ooh, this song. Forgot about what a song.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me, like it's. I guess it's one of those moments where we start playing the real music. Why are we listening to this?
You put Sifting and then you put that on, and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know what I'm listening to after the show.
but that was my problem. I mean, this is probably one of the thrashier songs they've done, but it doesn't. I just wish it had that muscle.
There's your muscle, like Chris.
Yeah. It's on late era Metallica's where it is.
No, to be fair, you're not going to get that sound with $600. You need Metallica money.
I will say there was a moment as far as kind of the strong kind of presence behind the vocals at 1:30. I did like how kind of, at least in this context of the song, how Kurt pushed the vocals. If you could play that.
We've moved on already.
I
threw in the. Hang on.
Yeah,
what did you want?
I also don't have much to say.
We can play 1 minute and 36 seconds from Attitude, but I don't know.
The rest of the show is just playing Attitude.
Here it is.
No wrap up, nothing.
All right. Anyway. Chris had a point. He took the time to signal something out.
Yes,
Sifting.
he did.
Copy link. Paste.
All right.
Here it is.
What's he got?
It's not
What's he got for us?
It's a sync video thing.
There we go. Yeah, if we had the whole playlist, we could just go back to it. Skip video. What are you at, Chris? You got
1:30. Like
cool riff.
Yeah,
that is a good riff. Like this one's growing on me now that you're playing it again. It's like okay.
It just nowhere.
So, anyway.
I mean, again,
Attitude.
I
wouldn't pick it over Attitude. But
and Attitude is like the deep cut of the record that nobody likes.
That's true. What's that saying? Oh no!
Just wiping the floor of the back end of a Nirvana album.
Oh.
We covered
everybody's been waiting for.
So I think we've covered it all. We're not doing the last two because they weren't
unfortunately
the original release. Unless anybody wants to say something about them.
No, I didn't. Big Cheese and Downer. No, yeah. For the folks listening at home, we are judging off of the OG
original
LP 11-track version. So that's why we're only doing the 11 songs. Sorry.
That's what we try to do.
Yeah,
those of you who wanted 13.
Thank God for Kevin. Yeah. We're not digging in any.
It's not all
kept
me.
his trap shut for the last 4. He's gonna do it for the last 6 too. So Alex wins the extra Love It or Flush It based on the trivia Chris threw out during the track by track. So
does that mean now I have 3?
Should we do it? Should we do 2? 2 buys, 2 terminates.
I had that
gives you
plan.
3.
I had 2 and 2 ready to go.
All right. I guess we should do it because it's only 3. We're only covering 3 here. So usually what we do for those of you who are not familiar.
I'll just say I just had a last minute like to terminate.
Oh, okay.
Happened.
So you're doing two likes and a terminate.
Happened in the last couple minutes here. I won't say what it was, but it just happened.
Okay.
Okay, so
We'll
two
find
likes
out what
and
it
a
is.
you
terminate.
can tell us when it happens.
For those
Right.
of you who are new to this show, what we do here is we go through the tracks, and based on everyone's opinion, we are now going to go through officially and love, flush, buy, or terminate each of these songs. What that means is love it, self-explanatory. Flush it, it goes down the toilet. Terminate means it should have never existed. It does nothing for the band's discography, and we don't want to ever hear it again. And buy means it is a culturally significant output from the band that you would include either on a special Spotify playlist that is better than the best of, or something like what I like to look at it as a scene from a scene in a film. If I am writing a screenplay about the band, this song belongs in the story. So that's how I look at it. Look at it how you like, but that's how we're going to do it. Love, flush, buy, or terminate. Alex, take it away.
Yeah, and disclaimer for any diehard Bleach fans out there that thinks it's a perfect 10 out of 10 and you can't get rid of any song. We're playing devil's advocate here.
Yeah, get rid too.
You gotta basically say, if I had to get rid of something, gotta play the game. That's why we're doing this. There's some records where I don't want to get rid of anything, and I still gotta do it. This one I would probably get rid of a few. So let's start it off.
And now, love it or flush it.
Track 1, Blue. Kev, what are we giving it?
I don't remember.
Turbo flush.
It's the guitar solo.
The guitar solo.
There we go. Wow.
2 words. Goodbye.
I didn't remember it until you said guitar solo.
I'm going to give this one a love. Yes, the guitar solo is not the best thing in the world, but it was a live staple all the way, I think, to the end, and I appreciate it for that aspect. Mark?
I'm going to give this one the absolute lightest of all pokes. I would have been okay with it had it not been for that guitar solo. I have to be fair. It's just a guitar solo, and this band is a band that is most definitely not about the guitar solo. So I have to be fair and just give it a poke.
All right,
Okay.
or away from across the quad. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Yeah, I think I'll give it a light squeeze. I didn't hate the solo as much, but I can see where Mark's coming from. But yeah, no, it's just as far as the song, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it.
All right, bring it on over to track 2, Floyd the Barber. Kev, what are we giving it?
Floyd's getting the flush.
All right, I'm going to give this one the lightest of squeezes. I still enjoy it, but maybe now possibly my least favorite on side 1, but good enough to stick around. So, Mark, what do you think?
Not me. Pack it in, Floyd. Flush.
Flush.
Flush. This one's, I know where this is going. The lyrics for Chris. Chris enjoys the lyrics on this one, the idea. I admit, did bring it up for me from a total hate.
Yeah, I'll give it a love. Yeah, it's got this very weird kind of twisted, kind of, just from just how weird the record is. Yeah, I thought it was kind of an interesting take on, I guess, the darkest of humor. Yeah.
All right. And now bring it on over to About a Girl. Kev.
I hate to be predictable, but I have 2 buys, so I got to use it here. But I do like this song overall.
Yeah, this one's tough because, I don't want to be predictable, and I feel like there's going to be better versions of this to come.
But it's a good song.
Sure it is. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely a good song. And I now that I'm looking at it, my other buys are my favorite songs on the record, but they're not super diverse from each other. Oh, you know what? I'm just gonna stick with what I have. I'm gonna give it a very strong love. Mark.
Okay. This is the one that I don't personally like, but is the moment where I give them credit for defining the sound at least 2-3 years before it ever became an idea. from any of the other bands that were far bigger than they were in 1989. So for that, I have to give it a love simply on innovation, I suppose.
And Chris.
Yeah, kind of in the same boat with Mark. Yeah, but I think I like it a little bit more. I mean, it's a classic. Like the opening guitar part just makes you think of that. It's probably the one song off the record that you kind of hear. Like I think even most casual fans know about a girl. And yeah, you know it immediately. Yeah, you can't deny it. Yeah,
Right.
Sure.
All right, let's move it on over to No Recess, track 4, School. Kev.
He's already giggling. He's got 2 terminates, and he's ready to go.
You loaded me up. You remember that Calvin and Hobbes where
I
he
was
doodles
gonna
the
use
tank?
that exactly. I was gonna use that. Where he nukes his own school or the F-15.
Wait, so do we get 2 terminates and 2 buys, or just
Yes.
1 terminate?
2 terminates.
We get 2.
buys.
I've been planning
wow.
on 2.
Yeah, he's
Okay.
savoring his 2.
All right, good thing I.
All right, well, this is where the guy goes and finds all the pieces and glues them back together because I'm buying this one, baby.
What?
Nice.
Probably my favorite
Yeah,
song.
The Mutant Mudmen. All right, here we go.
Well, he's
From-
rebuilt the
Yeah,
school.
resurrected.
It's like a little Iraqi school built with U.S. tax money, and it's gonna get blown up again by the CIA. Goodbye.
All right, so I guess I'm guessing
What's
I'm
Chris
left
doing?
with.
Is he
I guess I'm left
rebuilding
with,
the school in Iraq? again?
From Adams, yeah. I'm melting it down, and I'm kind of molding it back together.
You're
I'm not
buying
buying it. I do like it though. I like the music of it. So I'll give it a love.
All right, bring it on over to the cover for single Love Buzz. Kev.
You know, I kind of like when bands make covers their own. So, and this fits on the album without a doubt. I'm going to keep this one. Give this one a love for me.
All right, I'm going to give this one a love as well. Mark.
Nah, just too forgettable. The only thing I kind of remember is that the riff sounds like AC/DC a bit, and that's not really enough for me.
What?
So, get a
It's
flush.
a pretty memorable bass line. I don't know. All right. Well, considering this song made it onto my my long Apple Music playlist, outside of actually even discussing the discography, even before that, I gotta give this my first buy.
Ah.
Yeah, I just love that because it doesn't sound like anything else on the record.
Buying
yeah.
a cover, has that happened before? Maybe Diver Down? Somebody?
I'm
I feel like we
somebody
would've
bought
had
something
to.
on Diver Down.
Yeah, like just like with what Kevin said, they just kind of make it their own, and it just yeah. Again, to get tapping into my melodic sensibilities, this is probably the most melodic and interesting kind of formatted song.
Sure.
All right, let's bring it on over to track 6, end of side 1 if you got the original vinyl. Paper Cuts, Kev.
Everybody tried really hard on this song, but it gets the flush.
Did it at least come back from a T?
It did. I will tell you that much. It was primed for a T. I put that thing on, I pulled out the driver for this song originally. So
The Callaway One Wood was out.
so now
Not to be used to it.
now I simply bent the club and put it back into the club bag or whatever.
Yeah.
So it gets the flush.
Okay. This one is a big stocks on the rise for me, and I was tempted to buy it just because it's so weird, and I feel like it almost kind of represents, I feel like they don't really ever do this again. But, I don't know if I'm going to go that far, actually, with it. So I'll give it a love. Mark.
I'm giving this a pretty strong love with the hesitation that I might go back, listen to this, and regret it. So I don't know if it's just maybe a in the moment type of love, but I'll have to just agree with Alex, I suppose.
And Chris.
Yeah, I was kind of on the fence about this, whether to give it a love or to whip out the American Express. I think I'm gonna buy this one. I just like that there's a lot of weird kind of musical ideas going on here that are actually executed very well. And even more surprising that they sounds that you associate more with other bands as being their kind of definitive sound, where here you're hearing them before that. So it's kind of this weird, like, alternate dimension kind of, yeah, whatever you want to call it, and but still sounds really cool. Yeah.
All right, flip the record over. Track 7 or track 1 of side B, Negative Creep, Gav.
Oh, wow. I thought that was getting a flush. Interesting.
All right, let's do round 2, baby. We're buying this one as well.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
I think
I thought about it, but yeah.
I think it in a way covers me not buying Paper Cuts because it's got the heavy sludginess. But it's maybe a little more up tempo, and not that I should use this as a reason, but I was looking at the Wikipedia page on this song specifically, and I feel like it really does make sense. It says here, Negative Creep has been described as one of the sub-poppiest songs the band ever recorded and a textbook example of Seattle's true grunge sound. And I will agree with that, and I think it represents a time and place, and I've been really digging the song, more especially lately, but has always been a favorite. So ring it up, Mark.
If I could flush this one from ever appearing in my brain again, that would be fine with me. Not going to go as far as Kevin, but I flushed this one.
And Chris.
Yeah, it's. I'll give it a love. Yeah, it's got that gutturalness that I love. I mean, typically, if I want that, I'll go to Meshuggah, which is just really kind of pulverizes you. But here, I like that sound was being kind of experimented with as early as '89. Yeah, so yeah, I can't totally kill it off.
Got to love the chart so far. Not a single flush or terminate from Chris or Alex, but Kevin and Mark's chart peppered with flushes and terminates.
Not a single F or T.
Oh, boy.
That ranks with some of the best debuts
up
there.
All right, let's bring it on over to Scoff. Kev, track 8.
You know what? I'm going to have fun by using my buy. Mark convinced me enough, and honestly, I didn't know what else to use it on. But you know what? Mark made a good point, so here it is.
I don't think Kevin and I have been on this opposite sides of the spectrum yet.
Yeah.
We're flushing this one.
What? Oh, this one's my first buy. Ring it up. It finally meets the threshold that I like to see for artistry with this one.
Maybe
Across
I'm the
board.
poser here. I'm picking all the popular songs that they ended up playing live, and the Nirvana newbies are picking all the deep cuts.
Maybe. This one's... I
Maybe.
mean, if you had to capture a moment in time with this one, I feel like that where we talked early Metallica, and people say that they were better when they were drunk, hungry, living out of their cars, and angry at the world. And there's more authenticity with this one than there is in the first 7 songs combined. I feel like this has to open your movie, this song right here.
Yeah,
and actually, that's one of the things I was thinking about too, Mark, is that, like, if I had a playlist with just about a girl, I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really speak to this record.
No.
Though. So I was looking through. Yeah, I was looking through. I'm like, well, what song do I like that speaks to this record? And my first thought was none of them. But then I was like, well, there's Scoff. So that's the one I'm going to do.
Even just the name of it is just kind of ugly. It just works.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it's an ugly title for an ugly. Yeah, I mean, you look at Mark got into it as far as it's about a kid trying to survive his dysfunctional family, and addiction and all that stuff.
Corny,
so it's got to be.
But at least it gets darker with the addiction side of it. That makes me think less of angsty school kid drawing swastikas in his notebook, and more of like guy dealing with a serious alcohol
problem, right? And that's what I liked. There was more form to this song. I felt like there was and structure, I guess is a better word, compared to just like her just throwing lyrics at the just writing them quickly in his notebook as they're driving to the studio. But I liked kind of the real world vibe of this song, so I'm gonna give it a love.
Nice. Okay. Well, yeah, and this might be one where I go back and I listen to these last 4 songs and be like, these are pretty good.
Maybe not the last four.
Well,
Maybe just Scoff.
maybe, maybe just Scoff. Yeah, you're right. Track 9, Swap Meet, Kev. What are we giving it?
What do you think?
The patented
Oh, boy.
Sorry to flush your relationship there, Kurt, but there it goes.
Guy's not known for good ones anyway.
Yeah, we're terminating that relationship. See ya. Sorry.
Flush for me.
Yeah, I think this is where a lot of us are going to be on the same page. Yeah, I'm going to terminate this one because I know his second attempt at writing kind of a more poppy, kind of lovey-dovey song, and here it just feels generic and unmemorable compared to like About a Girl, which has that immediate kind of very simple kind of. But yeah, Swap Me just sounds like a just normal kind of like Seattle grunge song where it just doesn't you're kind of sitting there at the bar and you hear it, but you don't really you're just in conversation about something else. Yeah. So sadly, because I know he
one
probably
ear, out the other.
I don't really even remember what it sounds like. All right, track 10, Mr. Mustache.
Yeah, you expect this. You expect this song title to be like a Freddie Mercury B-side or something, and it's just not.
Mr. Mustache.
So
how
it
do
it gets the flush.
Well, I hate to be like this, but as most of the Mr. Mustache guys back then, they got terminated, and so is this one.
I will admit that story about that you have to shave your mustache if you want to be in a grunge band.
Well, wasn't that
way
like
better than the
people
entire song? Which I'll remember that for a while. I will never remember this
I
song.
like the
so
Black
flush it.
Flag influence, but I'll go to them if I want.
It wasn't
to listen
necessarily
to it.
that, but if you had a mustache in the sea, you were pretty much kind of looked down upon and kind of like almost ostracized. But it's
It's just so funny how they're how
Yeah,
groups like that are so contrarian. They end up kind of being a mirror image of what they oppose.
right.
Just how,
Yeah, image-based,
as grandiose as Guns N' Roses were at the time, and how Nirvana and Kurt wanted to be everything that wasn't that. It was just basically a grandiosity turned inward rather than outward,
Right.
as the hair metal scene or Guns N' Roses exemplified. So, yeah, flush this one if you didn't hear me.
As much as I like the energy in like the last 30 seconds, and there's not enough here where I really even went back to it. This will be my second terminate, yeah.
Mr. Mustache just getting blown out of the band.
He got hammered.
Just stray mustache hairs all over the sidewalk.
Explosion of mustache hair.
It's like a Spinal Tap where all that's left on the drum seat is the mustache.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
God.
Bring a suitcase, pack your other mustache.
I don't know why. I just had this funny image of just a mannequin with a mustache just being blown up with like with C4 on a sidewalk.
Boy. I sure hope that's not that's someone's favorite Nirvana song. Track 11, Sifting, Kev.
You know, I will have to say about this one, I was ready to keep this one around until everybody started pulling out the Metallica references. And then I realized I just like those songs so much better. So this gets the flush.
Yeah, I'm kind of in a way in a similar camp, because the only note I wrote about this, I didn't even decide what I was going to give it. I just said kind of sounds like Leper Messiah kind of, and I'm like, well, I'll decide when I get on the show. And then I listened to it during the show, and I'm like, I'm kind of liking this. Maybe I'll keep it around. And then now I think I'm going to get rid of it. Yeah, like I like the riff, but I don't know if it's like enough. It's kind of like the Mr. Mustache. Like the riff is cool, but is it enough to save it? I don't know. And it sticks with my 6 out of 10. So maybe I'll come back to it every now and then, but probably not. Just flush it. And so, if I look at this as a 7-song album from Blue to Negative Creep, that's pretty heavy hitting for me. That works. So I'll stick with that.
I might look at it more of a 4-song album personally, but 7, if you can get that far with it, that's kind of a stretch in my opinion. But you know what? A show of opinions. I did my math wrong. I'm going to go back retroactively terminate Mr. Moustache as if he needed any more hate. This album's mustache hair is just terminate that, whatever's left. This one is a bit of a surprise in my ring it up for a buy. Possibly not so much that I actively like the song and will go back to it, but it's one of those songs that, again, I'm just a sucker for interesting, something that's a little bit there as an artist, and this song has a bit of an interesting structure to it. It's got at least parts that, it's got contrast to it, a little bit of contrast, and I don't know. I'm probably reaching here. I don't know what else I would buy anyway. Even though I like Paper Cuts better, I just feel like having my movie open with 2 of the same scene back to back would not be appropriate. So this is a more appropriate reference to where they are at their era, probably closing out the end of this era, and when they would be going next with Nevermind. So I guess I buy it. I'm confused. I don't know what to do with my money, so I'll buy this one.
All right. I was going to love this one, but I know I haven't used a flush. So I guess
retroactively flush something. It's confusing with these double T's and B's.
Yeah. Because I initially liked it because of the more thrashy elements and Kurt's vocal, but I know this again. I know we're talking about the specific scene, but I just wish there was more like a punch to the sound.
Also, I just realized longest song on the album, 5 minutes and 22 seconds. Not sure if that helps your case at all, Chris.
Whoa.
Yeah. No, I'm like I said, I'm not. I gotta flush it. I am flushing it. Yeah, that's the again. I was gonna, but I realized I had and so I had to formulate my reason around a flush. Yeah, because I had a problem with it. It comes off more of a thrash song, and thrash songs require more kind of more like lows and mid-range, where it just kind of crunches and really kind of punches in the lows.
What we just did now? We just wasted 2.5 hours because we all had our opinions going into the record. We all had all this discussion and we convinced nobody. We walked in with a 3, 4, 6, and 7.5 respectively. And so far, our Nirvana love, Kevin 27%, Alex 64%, Chris 73%, and Mark 45%. All bang on to the out of 10s that we did in the first place.
So I win. No.
We just spent 2.5 hours convincing nobody, probably not you, the listener at home, that this record is either great or terrible or who knows what. But I will say that I am glad that we had the journey of exploring this record because you definitely would have ignored it if you would have jumped just to Nevermind. You probably would have been turned off by it if you weren't really into Nevermind beyond just the hits. So it's a necessary step. I'm glad we take it. I'm glad that I kind of experienced that because I think that the band would just be far too shallow had you not had a good grasp of where they came from and their initial roots.
Yeah, and I'll say, if anything, I got Paper Cuts out of listening to this week because that is a song that I didn't really know about before, and I'm not going to say it's a favorite on the album, but it's one of those ones where like, there's something here that I would probably go back to. So it's a stocks on the rise nonetheless.
Sure. All right, if we've got no other thoughts, that will close out Bleach. We will see you next week. Actually, see you because we're on Twitch now. Hopefully everything worked out with the stream and I was able to clear up my audio issues in real time with no feedback, other than people commenting on this. So thanks for your comments. Light's great. Like, subscribe, rate, and review. We will definitely try to get to your emails on air next time. Sorry if we didn't read it this time because we just had so much to talk about with Nirvana. And the longer episode, I think it's okay because we're only doing 3 of these for Nirvana. So the more we can get, as far as content for this band, I think the better we will be served. So hope you had fun and we will see you next week. This is Mark from Light the Sky signing off.